in the last 100 years, and you all care about where you live, and you love where you live. You either moved there on purpose or you stayed there on purpose in some of these places that are hard to make a living in. And so after different international and national economies changed and left these parts of Ohio behind, they have tried to pick up the pieces and form a new economy. So a trail town concept is just one more tool in the tool belt for a community to try to make their community better for themselves, but also for visitors and people that would choose to move there. So I was really happy to see the registration, to see that all of those aspects of Ohio are here in this room and they have something in common. So thank you for honoring us. I'd also like to say this is just our first conversation and we don't know where it's going to go. It begs the question, should we do anything together or not, for starters? And if so, what? So you'll hear from people that are volunteers. I really love volunteers because they're passionate about their trail use. It would be hiking or biking or horse riding. And they have made a conscious decision, and I'm going to do something about that. So for a Buckeye Trail volunteer, there's not enough Buckeye Trail for me to hike, or it's not in good enough condition. I'm going to raise my hand to make it better or extend it. We have towns representatives that have raised their hands similarly. There's nobody in the state of Ohio or federally that's going to do this for me. So I'm going to basically volunteer to help make my town a better place, because it's not the county's job or anybody else's job, but I want to see it happen. So thanks for being the work that needs to happen. If there's something to do, we have a follow-up meeting on March 26th at 11 a.m. to follow up. You all will be invited to participate in that. So mark your calendars, see if you want to be invited or join us. But also being a first conversation, not everybody is here that should be here. Everybody that cares about trail town development, state of Ohio would easily be a 100 or 250 person conference. I'm going to make a list as you guys say, well, it would have been nice if, the Ohio Department of Health were here. Yeah. First conversation, we'll get them on the list, and I'll make a list of hopefully specific contacts at different organizations or agencies that should be invited into the conversation moving forward. I think that's enough for me. I'm interested in hearing from everybody else. Just a little housekeeping though. We're going to go through each of these blocks and try to have no questions for the individual speakers until we get to the end of that block, and then any question for any of those speakers, just so that the speakers can hit their time limits, which I might be threatening to miss right now. Okay. But if you need a bathroom around the corner that way, feel free to come in and come out, but I really do want you all to get a chance to meet each other, share contact information, and follow up. Is it okay if I introduce the next person?
Yes, that'd be great.
So I'm not sure who we'll bring up just at random. Is anybody in the room, I don't know, hike the entire Buckeye Trail? You'll do. Just for one sort of angle and aspect, what's the hiker's perspective of a trail town and that experience? So I'm honored to introduce Randall Roberts, who's many things, but is currently a trustee of the Buckeye Trail Association Board and a circuit hiker of many trails, segment hiker, section hiker. And I'll just leave it at that and let Randall.
Is anyone else nervous about this, or is
I'm nervous.
So Andrew and Kim did ask me to give what I think was the hiker perspective, and Andrew talked about volunteers, and I am on the board. It's my way of giving back to the trail that has given me so much. I have hiked almost 3,000 miles of unique long trails. Literally, I am at 2,987. So thank you for letting me check my spreadsheet on that. So now I'm getting excited for my next 13 miles. So hit a milestone. So like Andrew said, I completed the entire Buckeye Trail. And once you've done that, you've completed 900 miles of the North Country National Scenic Trail. After that, I extended to hike Ohio on the North Country Trail. I've hiked all of Pennsylvania. I've hiked parts of Michigan, and currently I'm working on the Finger Lakes Trail, which shares North Country Trail. I'm like 137 miles shy of completing the Finger Lakes Trail, which I plan to do this summer. So I'm mostly a day hiker. I've done some short backpacking trips. So when I come into a trail town, there's a lot of amenities that aren't important to me. Like I don't need a laundromat, for instance, that a long distance hiker might, want out of a trail town. A grocery store, I don't need, but it has come in handy. I am looking for someplace to stay on the weekend. I do prefer to camp, but if the weather's bad, I'll look for a hotel, motel, or an Airbnb. For a through hiker, those things could be nice to stay in a nice, clean sheets and get a nice shower. So a through hiker might, like I am looking for a place to stay in that town. We're both looking for the same thing. My ideal hike is to go 12 miles and stop at a sit-down restaurant and then go another 12 miles. I can do that because I'm not carrying my tent, my sleeping gear, and it's a nice sit-down, eat at a restaurant. I've done that a couple of times. An ice cream or a beer after the hike is the end of a perfect day for me. When I see a Buckeye Trail town, my excitement is kind of twofold. One is I get excited that this town knows about the Buckeye Trail. So many people in Ohio have never heard of it. I tell them that's because it's new. It's only been around since 1959. And, we're trying to get the word out. And seeing that sign that says Buckeye Trail Town, if somebody sees that sign and then sees me walking alongside the road with trekking poles and a day pack, they might be able to put two and two together that guy might be hiking the Buckeye Trail. And they may even stop and ask me, hey, are you hiking the Buckeye Trail? It happened a couple of times, and I bet you've heard of it. So when I see that trail town sign, I feel welcomed. I feel like people know about it, and there might be an opportunity to get some conversation going. Secondly, I know the people in that town are more likely to be welcoming and maybe offer me assistance. When I plan a hike in Michigan or Pennsylvania, the North Country National Scenic Trail, the NCTA, they've established trail towns and they list those trail towns. So I look before I plan my hike to know where those trail towns are. Not so much because I'm looking for the amenities, but because I'm looking to see what my expectations are. So that if, I feel comfortable parking on the streets in Darlington, PA, because it's a trail town without somebody calling the cops about an abandoned vehicle. Or better yet, I can park at the insurance agency that has 3 signs in the parking lot that says North Country Trail hikers. And I can park there on the weekend, even knowing that they're not open without somebody getting suspicious. And they might see that and they might know that I'm hiking the trail and may even look for me. In Michigan, an Amish man on a horse and buggy pulled up beside me and says, "Are you hiking the North Country Trail?" An Amish man knew about the North Country Trail. And I don't know if it's because if his knowledge was because there were trail towns nearby, but when I know that I'm in a trail town, I'm likely to get that interaction where somebody says, "Hey, are you hiking this trail? Is there anything I can do for you?" He told me that if his farm was around the bend and if I needed anything, stop on in. And I told that story recently, and I found out that he had passed away last summer. And because people knew him, because he was offering that help to people, and people hiked or camped on his property. If I stop into a restaurant in Kalkaska, Michigan, doing one of my 12-mile stop at a restaurant, do another 12 miles, I might not get the strange looks that someone with backpack and trekking poles is coming into a restaurant in the middle of a town where there's no identifiable trails nearby, because I'm hiking on roads to go into that town. I'm stopping at a restaurant. I'm out of place wearing a backpack, but it's a trail town. So the people of that town know, oh yeah, we get people through here all the time. That makes me feel comfortable. It gives me some comfort knowing that that town is engaged with the trail. And as a hiker, I can go through and enjoy the amenities that they have without getting strange looks. And I might not get the cops called on me because there's a homeless man in the grass by the railroad tracks changing his socks. That didn't happen to me, but it has happened to another hiker. So, you know, if they get a call like that, cops are going to be, rather than, oh, that's suspicious, let's go find out who that is. They will know that they're a trail town. Like, yeah, it's probably a hiker. We'll go check it out, see if he needs anything. I'm going to finish with one word that I want you to think about, and it was mentioned like 3 times in Kim's slides. And that word is community. You know, think about what that word means. Is it a place? Is it people? Is it both? Do they overlap? I said this for a long time, that the Buckeye Trail Association is like family. It's like family to me. And yes, we might have that uncle that we hope doesn't come to the party, but we're going to invite him anyway because he's family and he's our family. He's part of our family. Now, Andrew prefers the word community, rightfully so, to say that we are a community. That's true. We're a backpacking community. We're a hiking community. We're an outdoors community, and those things overlap. And if people need a place, our community is on the trail or on the trail system. When I see a trail town sign, I know that that community is welcoming my community. And as I go through their town, at least for the day or the weekend, I feel a part of their community. And I think we're honored and respectful and appreciative of that community, basically opening their streets and sidewalks to our community, you know, the trail users. And we're respectful, you know, leave no trace principles apply just as much on city sidewalks and town community parks as it does in the woods and the wildlife. So we're going to be respectful of that. We're not there to vandalize. We're not there to, you know, leave trash. In fact, some of the hikers pick up trash. My favorite statement that I've learned in a trail symposium is that trails not only connect places, but they also connect people. And a trail town is a chance where those communities collide, where the trail using community can collide with the community of the people that live and work and play in that community. And we can connect and help each other and get to know each other.
Thank you.
There's going to be Melinda Huntley. She's the executive director of the Ohio Travel Association. If your slides lined up here.
You were great, man. I thought that was wonderful. And I love your analogy of community. So I want you guys to think today about that word community. And, you know, he says about inviting, you know, the uncle. I want you guys all to think about this room as a community of people who care about Ohio, who care about trails. And I'm like the crazy loud aunt that comes and brings the Jell-O dessert that she's picked up somewhere because she doesn't cook. So, and she tends to say inappropriate things, right? So just warning you all what to expect. I'm gonna ask you to keep me right on schedule. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for this conversation. I'm going to speak for like 25 minutes or so, but I will be here for the panel discussion at the end and would love to talk to any of you in the meantime. So I am the director of the Ohio Travel Association. This is not the state tourism office. So be clear, I don't have money, right? So don't come to me asking, for money. They don't either. When maybe we'll talk about that. But I am the trade association that represents the tourism industry. Now, outdoor recreation, I'm telling you, it's a soft spot in my heart. I've been in the tourism industry some 3 decades. Started off, doing marketing and PR for Cedar Point. Ended up doing, running a visitors bureau, and what I discovered, in that time was that the places, the things that people wanted the most weren't often represented at the table, right? So what I ended up then focusing most of my career, until I came with this job, but I still do it, is how do we leverage outdoor recreation in our historic, our cultural assets of Ohio? Massive. 5,000, miles of trails. We are an outdoor mecca, people, but nobody knows it. And oftentimes it's because we talk to ourselves and not to others. We'll talk about that too. So I've spent literally my entire career trying to bridge that gap between the tourism industry and outdoor recreation. Served on the original Ohio Trail Partnership, then moved on to trail advisory, but I've also worked fishing, birding, hunting, many other different outdoor recreational pursuits because I feel that strongly about it. So that's just a little bit about me. Why a trail town? Okay, tell me how to do this, Cam.
Try enter. Might be the.
Uh-oh. I could tell more stories if need be.
I'm allowed to.
Oh, me too.
Oh. I guess just enter.
Okay,
Enter must.
just enter.
Maybe I need
Okay,
the mouse.
why trail towns? Because this is an opportunity for us. This is an opportunity for Ohio. We already know there's interest. We have the, hold that up, state plan telling us, right? If statewide efforts would be valuable. Is it? These are the conversations we're gonna have today. What does it look like? Is it needed? How can it leverage other things? So if we look at 2 reasons why trail towns excite me, and they're different than what you've heard thus far. Number one of the first reasons I think is, look, it's about creating better experiences. In today's post-COVID economy, visitors, when I say visitors, I'm not talking about long distance travelers, people. I'm talking about people who travel 50 miles more, right? To get to someplace new. So visitors are way more conscientious about customer service, which is just like plummeting, right? I don't have to tell you. But what trail towns can do is help provide better experiences. And when you provide better experiences for trail users, they tell other people, so there's more users. And then what happens when there's more users? There's greater support for your trails. So I'm trying to connect the dots between what Randall said about, getting support for your trails to the users and their value in a community. How many of you want more support for your local trails? All right. There's a few of you who don't. Okay, we'll talk. Second reason, bringing dollars to local businesses. We talk about wanting to do economic impact studies. We talk about wanting to measure it. Get the people in the doors of the business, right? It's not rocket science, people. We need to connect these users to our business communities, to our retail shops, to our restaurants, to our lodging properties. And, it's not an either or. So many times we talk about, well, you forgot this benefit or you forgot that. No, I'm talking about, right? It's an and. These things are really important. In this room for today, and as we talk about trail towns, try to separate the benefits of a trail with the benefits of a trail town. They're different, right? Strictly different. We're looking at trail towns, we're narrowing it down, right? So we are focusing in on customer service and we're focusing on economic impact. And I'm going to go into detail a little more with each of those things. You can't see this very well, unfortunately. But what we have found throughout the US is we are spending a greater percentage of our disposable income on experiences instead of material goods. So just to give you a little hint, like domestic leisure travel in the US, this is a report done in 2023, that, that's 35% they were spending on domestic leisure travel. It's a huge chunk, right, of a disposable income. But then we also have recreational equipment and leisure travel and recreational vehicles and entertainment. And so you can see how several of these categories kind of blend together. But the main message of this is the fact that people want experiences and not things. And that provides an opportunity. There is a growing demand for passion-based travel. I love this term, right? Now, I've also found that every time an author has a new book, they change the term that they're using to describe something so they get more books sold. But you know what this basically is saying, people want to experience what they love. And it's why we see this explosion of very niche type markets. It's less based on place, it's more based on the experience. And the tourism industry hasn't quite gotten caught up with this. I will tell you, we're still very much focused on promoting a place. Anyone from state parks here? Well, you're not really. Okay, good. So I have to say it anyway. So I just had a conversation with the chief of state parks, and because they're looking for ways to promote state parks. And I was like, stop talking about them only as places. Talk about what you can do there. That's what's going to get the attention. So you could say Burr Oak, but does the general person who's not familiar with Burr Oak understand what that is? Maybe not. But what do you want? You want to go boating, you want to go hiking, you want to go fishing. That's what we're wanting to do. So this also feeds into why this is the right time for us to have this conversation. But, right, let's face it, outdoor recreation. Those of you who can't read the title, just look at the curve, right? This is how outdoor recreation has exploded. It was growing pre-pandemic. It then shot up. And it's still continuing to grow. This is the, basically the participation rate. The number of times people have gone out is dropping a little bit, but we still see a huge opportunity for outdoor recreation. If we look at what do Ohio travelers do? Like what do they do when they travel? This shows, and this is fall because it's the most recent, but spring and summer shows similar statistics. Visiting family and friends, number one thing people do when they travel Ohio. Recognize too, research is what is, not what could be. It's just a snapshot. It doesn't show us what could be. But what I like to see is, okay, what is growing? What could we do about it? How can we move forward? But if you look at the national state parks, monuments, outdoor, right? Like, think about who's taking the survey. You know, they didn't go to your county park and say national park. Like, they don't know. So parks, but then down here, hike or bicycle ride. 25% of Ohio travelers were planning to participate, up 20%, up from 20% last year. Our national state parks monuments, outdoor, 39% compared to 28%. So there is interest in Ohio travelers are already starting to participate in the outdoors, but there's opportunity. If we go further, looking at overnight trips by Ohio visitors, and you can see right here, outdoor activity, 42% of Ohio overnight guests participated in outdoor activities. The US norm is 48. To me, how we can surpass that, right? 5,000 miles, trails, people. So, we have an opportunity to surpass that number. Why do we talk about overnight guests? Really easy. Remember, economic impact. We're talking about trails in our communities. What's the best way to generate support for our trails? By describing the economic impact, by getting people into the doors. And the longer people stay in our communities, the more money they spend. And Ohio travelers, overnight travelers, spend 3 times more than day travelers. You're going to see in a minute how trail users blow that statistic out of the water. Day trippers in Ohio, outdoor activities, 33% participated in some type of outdoor activity while visiting Ohio. That's compared to the US norm of 36. All right, so what's the other reason why trail towns excite me? Okay, I'm gonna give you a little economics lesson, so just bear with me. But I really think it's important that you understand how a traveler's dollar moves through a community. Because we're talking about, tour trails, and we're trying to talk to someone else about trails, then you have to understand how a traveler's dollar works. So this is a look at direct visitor spending in Ohio. The last time we had it measured, $41 billion. That is what direct visitor spending is, what Randall spends, right? When he goes into a community and buys a cup of coffee, a beer, a hotel room, right? That is a direct spend. He's walking in and he's handing them his hard-earned cash, right? That's a direct. This is from a tourism perspective, gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, attractions, museums, you name it, retail shops. Those are the ones that our trail users are going to spend dollars directly with. Here's where I think we missed the boat. No pun intended. That $41 billion in spending in Ohio generated an additional $12 billion in indirect spending. When that grocery store, that cafe, right, that restaurant had to buy goods and services in order to operate, right? If there's no customers, they don't need, legal paper or pens or apples or hops or whatever it is, toilet paper, whatever they're buying, right? So because there are people coming into a shop, into a hotel, into a restaurant, that business has to purchase goods and services. And the more they can purchase those goods and services locally, the better, because it keeps that money, in a community and in the state of Ohio. So if we combine those two, you can see that the total economic impact of the travel economy in Ohio is $53 billion. It's a lot of money. That's one of the largest industries in the state of Ohio. And if you look at it from a sales tax perspective, I think we're like 9%, 10% of total tax revenue. People say, well, like, really, tourism? What happened during the pandemic when some of it dried up? Very clear. So, this is an important piece of the Ohio economy. What about trails? Well, hallelujah, there's even an article about the Great Allegheny Passage's new economic impact study. Has anyone seen it? It's amazing. If you are in trail development, go look it up. There was even an article that said, a gift to the trail community, because it's so awesome. This is a trail, been around for a while, right? They have trail towns. What they revealed is that this trail had 121 million, not billion. Remember, before we were talking billions, so B&M, still a huge amount of money, right? $121 million regional impact from gap tourism. How they define gap tourism, and that's what they call their trail, is the fact that they are users who are not in the counties where the trail's located, right? And I think they said it's close to 30, I may have this wrong, 38% are not from contiguous counties. And of those, 70% are from far away. So, these are people coming into a trail, so much so that they measured the economic impact of the gap trail as being $800,000 per mile. So each mile of that trail, they've broken it down, is worth that much money. How? Because people are going into the shops, and those shops are buying other things, and new businesses are cropping up. to service not just the trail user, but to service those other businesses who service the trail users. Remember when I said the overnight versus day blows it out of the water? Look at the gaps analysis. This is an overnight, $496 is the average overnight spending per trip from a user on the Gap Trail versus $90 for a day tripper. Why are trail towns important? Because they're going to encourage longer stays. And how they spend it? Lodging, restaurants, right? Groceries, everything that Randall talked about, right? Is what they're spending their money on. All right, as we go forward, how are we doing on time here?
You have a minute, 4 seconds left.
Yeah, well, that's not gonna happen. No. Well, a couple things as we go forward with these conversations, I want you to think about staying on the trail. Avoid confusing trail users. There's the Buckeye Trail Town, the North Country, Morpsey's doing something, right? You've got multiple trail town programs. Amazing, right? We need to have conversations about how do we leverage? Is there a way on a statewide basis we could do something to help amplify all of those efforts and that we don't compete, but instead can we work together to just lift trail towns as a concept all together. Build better collaborations with the tourism industry. How many of you in the room today are from the tourism industry? Wait, where are you from?
Jackson County.
I need to talk to you. Yes, yes. And Chandler,
Okay.
Pike County, right? This room should be filled. We tend to talk to tourism officials, not with tourism. And we also tend to, because I had this conversation with Mark, like you guys get together and you talk nuts and bolts and all this stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about, right? It's development, it's trail development, right? Management. And what these folks can do is the marketing, which incidentally is one of the major gaps that the Gap has identified, right? So like lean on the tourism industry as a true partner, not as a resource because they have no money, but use them and leverage their talents. So I think there's an opportunity here. But here's the biggest one. This is why I'm going to take the time. My years, like working with outdoor recreationists, have taught me, if anything, the greatest lessons it's taught me is that we build things for our friends, right? How many of you are avid trail users? Yeah, the room, right? So trail towns appeal to multiple user groups, and they don't all think like us. We ran into this trouble with birding because those that really wanted to promote birding, they were the avid birders, and they were designing things for their friends, not for someone who might be interested in birding. And so there was a barrier created where new people weren't necessarily participating. If you look at the list, well, you can't see it. Think of every outdoor recreation activity, right? I don't care if it's ice skating, boating, diving, nature sketching, whatever. People have different motivations for participating in outdoor recreation. And that means they also have different expectations for the activity. So think about that from a trail perspective. I like to call it like it's about how passionate are they. And regardless of the trail activity, equestrian, hiking, biking, it doesn't matter, water trails, whatever, a user falls somewhere along this spectrum between passionate or avids, you guys are avids, right? And just looking for something to do, right? I'm in the area, got the kids, looking for something to do. In between those are two markets that have the best potential for Ohio. Those people who are interested in the outdoors, all kinds of outdoor experiences, and those that are interested in just culture, history, nature, right? All of it all together. There are more people interested in history and nature than there are in either of those alone, right? So we tend to focus here. The problem with that is there's not as many of us. So there's fewer passionates. Besides that, No marketing message I give you is gonna convince you to go to a trail if you know through your network that it's not any good. You already know where to go, right? These users who are passionate, they know where the great experiences are, and they're gonna come. You don't have to spend money to attract them. These nature lovers, destination doers, we need to make trail activity and outdoor recreation accessible to them, part of that conversation. So here's a classic example. It's my dad and me. My dad's 86 years old, gets on his bike every week. He can't see, so if you run into him, stay really wide berth. He is a passionate biker. He's always been. He takes trips just to bike. He's like you probably know him. His name's Mal Johnson. Didn't they know him? Like, I'm sure I've said that and people have gone, oh yeah, I know Mal. I'm gonna get my dad. You know, he goes to these trips to spend time on his bike. That's what's important to him. The number of miles. You heard Randall, 12 miles, then I want 12 miles. That's a nightmare for me. Nightmare, right? He travels, he travels with other people who are like him. He's traveling with you guys. The emphasis is on his biking experience. He doesn't need a lot of amenities. He really doesn't. Clean restrooms, water fill, right? He's good to go. He'd stay on his bike all day if he could. Me? Oh, no. I go 2 or 3 miles and I'm bored, right? I want ice cream. I want to stop at the store. I want to do something. I'm going on a biking trip to get from destination A to destination B. This community and its experiences to this community and its experiences. And oh, it's fun. We can bike. Right? Because it creates a new adventure. I want to shop. I don't want to spend all day on the bike. I want shorter trips. I'm going to travel with a larger group because I'm going to travel with family and friends because it's all about relationships, which means I want amenities. I want to be invited to a community. I want a sign on a trail that says, here's what you can find. I want a museum that has a bike rack out front. Or, you know, a restaurant that is really conscientious of why we're here. Shorter trails are fine, but not too short. So, because I still want to pretend like I'm a passionate biker, right? I want to be cool and dress and act like them, but I don't want to be that passionate biker, right? So this is where trail towns become so vastly important. You are providing the experiences and the amenities for me and others like me, and we travel a lot, as well as those that also enjoy the outdoors. So as you continue having discussions, just keep that in mind, because we often paint things that are just for our friends, and I want to challenge you to think beyond that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Melinda, and thank you all. I forgot to mention something as far as time management, that these cards that you have laying around are for your questions that can be handed to the panel afterwards. We have some questions for Melinda, Randall, Self, or Kim at this time. We'll take some of those. We'll let people use the restroom and we'll come back as close to 1:30. As we can. Is there any burning question or?
So you had that graphic up there where you said that Ohio spent 2% short of the national average on
Outdoor activities.
How do you editorialize on that?
Look, I think there's several things, and I can't give a concrete answer on it. It is national, so we are dealing with national averages. So, you know, places out west, of course, have a, you know, greater percentage. Those with more land, right? But on the other hand, we have more visitors. We have more visitors in Michigan. People are surprised at that, right? No, we have more visitors. We should be getting a greater percentage. I just don't think we necessarily have always marketed and promoted outdoor recreation. And I always like to say, use the analogy of if a tree falls, right? We don't tell people often enough about the outdoor recreational opportunities, nor do we always market it the correct way, right? So it's not always a focused effort of understanding who the outdoor recreationist is, what their potential is, and that starts with your community's assets, right? So who are you going to draw? One of the projects I'm working with state parks is actually walking through state park managers an asset of what they have in trying to identify which outdoor recreationists could they most appeal to. And then we're using personas, which are like fake people, right? But so you would have like 3 different types of bike cyclists. Their different motivations, their different expectations. We've just never really put a lot of effort into understanding outdoor recreation in Ohio and marketing it in a way that could get a return, in my opinion. Chandler, what's your thought?
That's, yeah, and I mean, for us, that asset mapping for a community is huge. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, takes expertise. But I think, we in Pike County, especially, we're trying to develop a sense of place and community identity. And I know that outdoor recreation has to be a part of that, but it goes back to the point of, even for me, how do I build partnerships? Because we lack the entities that do have this focus on a countywide basis. So I rely on partnerships with the Buckeye Trail Association, ODNR, on their expertise. And then how can I then connect my community leaders, mayors, et cetera, also buy in with that community plan? So,
And the talent's out there.
oh yeah.
We just have to get more people like Chandler who show up for a conversation like this and are going to promote outdoor recreation in Ohio. Did they answer your question? Okay.
Any other burning questions that we don't want to put on a card right now for folks to have a little bit of a break and a chance to mingle before 1:30? I don't want to stop conversation. You'll have an opportunity to interrogate Melinda with the panel discussion.
Each one is going to be very different. Is that it? Yeah. Yeah.
I have to mind me picking on you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, hey, talk about trail sound. Like, man, trail sound.
You would, right? That's the perspective I did.
Looking at this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want, right? But at that point, I think every community is trying to be, and that's not fun.
Yeah.
You don't want it anymore. I love. I. That was really.
First, you can come sit up here.
If you like, we're gonna start with Amy, and then we're gonna have Sam, then Mark, then Dawn, and then Scott. So, okay, welcome back for hour 2. We have not lost many people. That's good. That's always good. Just wanna, housekeeping, we are recording this session, just so I wanna bring that up. So this hour, we're doing Ohio Trail Town examples. And I am responsible for this, that I pretty much did not give my Trail Town people any guidance on how they want to present their presentation. So these are gonna be very diverse. So I think that's good, but it is my fault. I didn't say like, I want you to talk about this, this, and this. I wanted them to talk about their Trail Town and like what's, you know, what's important in their Trail Town. So we're gonna start with Amy Renner. She's from Chansey, Ohio. She is the mayor of Chansey. She's also the vice chair to the board of ORCA, which is the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia.
Great, thank you. A little bit about myself. I've been in public office in Chansey for almost 8 years now. So I've been with them during this whole Trail Town journey, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that I get to be with them as we sort of figure out and redefine maybe what Chansey is. And we are in Athens County, by the way. Has anybody been to the Bailey's Trail System? Yeah, cool.
Wow.
All right, great. I don't want to talk a whole lot about it. I'm here to talk about Chansey. We talk a lot about Bailey's, so I'm excited to talk about Chansey. I can hit this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. About Chansey, we have approximately 1,000 residents. 32% of them do live below the poverty line. That's not a happy statistic, but it's something that's really important to us to think about when we're making decisions for Chansey. A lot of the work we do is based around trying to break the cycle of poverty, to try to improve the quality of life for our residents, give them opportunities, you know, to succeed. And so that's important for me to share. And another thing about Chansey that's really special to us is that we are bordered on all sides by either Hocking River, Sunday Creek, or Wayne National Forest. So we have really awesome natural assets in Chansey, and that's why I get to be here today, is because of those natural assets. And we were founded in 1838. It's a former coal and salt mining town. Very much an industrial town. It's an important part of Chansey. When you look at Chansey today and you see company houses and you experience the culture, it's very much rooted in its mining history. And so industrial heritage is something that is a large part of the work that we're doing today, about that heritage preservation, sharing that with people that are coming to town. And we have a lot of really incredible stories about what Chansey has been through. The industry did die in the 1950s, so it really altered Chansey's sense of place, and that's a big part of the work that we do today to redefine what is Chansey, what is its place, and what is its contribution to the community. I'll just briefly talk about the Baileys, even though it's just so incredible. We've got 58 miles now on the ground in the Bailey's Trail System. It's managed by the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia, which is a council of governments that Chansey is a founding member of. It was formed in 2019. We're really, really proud of Orca. I think Orca is really what makes the Bailey's Trail System unique and what makes communities like Chansey and now Buckdale and Doneville as part of the Bailey's being able to do this work that we do is in large part because we have Orca. So we're very proud to be a part of them. And we also were the first trailhead, we're the main trailhead to the Bailey's Trail System because we own 130 acres that borders Wayne National Forest. So just so you know why we got to be the lucky ones, that's why, because of our mine. So our Trail Town transition has been a really fun and wild ride. Like I said, I feel so fortunate to get to be a part of it. But you know, in the beginning, residents were very resistant to the trails. It's just part of the culture. You're going to find it in most Appalachian communities that they do not like change. And that's really because of their history with mining. A lot of mining companies made promises that they did not keep. And so when outsiders come in and they make promises about this revitalization that's going to happen, it's going to be so transformative, everyone's natural reaction is to have a lot of doubt that that's going to come to fruition. So it took a lot of work to get to the point, you know, where we could make the Bailey's Trail System happen. A lot of convincing, a lot of statistics, and proving people that this was worth something to the community. And public hunting is also a very big part of Chansey and the culture. Wayne National Forest has, you know, thousands of acres available for public hunting. So that was probably the primary concern for residents, was their ability to still have access to public hunting, now that there's these mountain bike trails on that property. So we have had a huge surge in businesses. We've got our old school building is currently being revitalized into a brewery and restaurant. And so that's a really fun one for the community. But what's also been really fun is seeing the existing businesses changing their business models to sort of fit in with this new Trail Town culture that we're doing. And I have a funny example. We have a local convenience store. It's called CD's. The employees there are amazing. You'll get the best customer service ever, but they've got a hodgepodge of things in this community store or this convenience store, and including beer. And, you know, we're just outside of Athens. I told them, I said, you guys got to sell Jackie O's beer. I'm telling you. This is it. You know, they didn't have any craft beer. The Busch Light was probably their top seller. And they said, oh, it's so expensive. It doesn't sell, you know, it's stuck on our shelves. And I called up the Jackie O's distributor. I said, just give them just like some sort of special arrangement to just try it out. And they did it. And a week later, I went to go get a 6-pack myself. And she said, we're sold out. We're sold out of all this beer. We can't believe it. Why would people pay that much money for a 6-pack? And I was just tickled. And that was a couple of years ago. And now they have several craft breweries that they carry. They've got like 6 different varieties of Jackie O's now. And so it's really funny to just see how, you know, those business models can evolve. And, you know, it was really important to me that we capture those dollars because people were driving to Athens to go get their Jackie O's. And now we were able to say, no, you can get that here in Chansey. And so to capture those dollars ourselves is really exciting for me. They also did say protein bars are a hot item now in their convenience store they didn't carry before. We've had a lot of beautification efforts that have been going on. We work a lot with our county land bank, revitalizing and demolishing properties. So it's been a big facelift effort. This is probably the hardest thing a small government can do, is erase years and years and years of neglect. So it takes a lot of money to make that happen. And that's where a lot of our efforts have been focused. But we have been going through this rebranding process too, which is kind of funny to think about a government rebranding itself, I think, but it's really been an important part of this journey, is to redefine the sense of place that we have and restore community pride through this process. We want residents to feel like this is a place they can say they're from and feel pride when they say that. So we've got a website, social media, you know, those are things we didn't have up until a couple of years ago. It's crazy. I know some of the urban communities probably laugh at that, but we're a little bit behind the times. But we have been focusing a lot on infrastructure improvements to be able to accept the economic development that's coming our way. This really had to be our focus. Otherwise, you know, businesses were going to pass us up for more developed areas in Athens. So we did form a planning commission in 2020. They developed a zoning ordinance. So I think with becoming a trail town, we also recognize there were going to be risks associated with that as well. And so we really focused a lot on responsibility for that and trying to make sure Chansey got the type of development that we wanted to see. There are things that we really liked about Chansey before the Bailey's Trail System and we wanted to maintain. That was that small community feel. Everybody knows everybody. You know, some people don't like that. We like that. That's why we live in Chansey, why we have for as long as we have. So we do a lot of work in regulation to try to figure out how to mitigate the risk of gentrification, losing culture and that sense of community that we have. So the Planning Commission has been a really great asset for our community. And again, you know, urban communities probably would laugh at something like that just coming on board in Chansey, but we do a lot of work now to try and catch up. And, you know, the rental permit ordinance that we have is regulating short-term rentals. So we see a lot of the more advanced trail towns struggling with that. We're really trying to be proactive, not reactive. And so it's part of the work that we're doing there. And we've been able to increase our staff capacity, which has been really awesome. But this is probably the thing we're most proud of. You know, again, Chansey's very poor. We only have property taxes. We don't have an income tax. So we don't have a lot of revenue to work with. Our property values are very low because we're in the floodplain. So we really have to rely on grant investment to help us get to the next level. So in the last 4 years, actually this number is closer to 19 million. After a couple of days ago, we got a new grant. So really excited about that. But $19 million in grant investment. You can kind of see how that breaks out here. We are doing a full sewer distribution replacement and we're breaking ground on that here in a couple weeks. We got $6.5 million for a new park. We got a storybook trail. We got a visitor center that's coming in on our property as well. So our park is a huge point of pride in the community. We've got a pump track, new playground, basketball court, shelter house, the Hockhocking Indiana Bikeway spur. Just an incredible asset, not only to community, to the region. We're getting a lot of visitors just coming to our park, and that's really exciting. And the community has just, you know, seniors, and they just love to say, gosh, it's so nice to see people coming to Chansey. And again, that's such a good feeling for them. And again, just restoring their community pride. But like I was saying, for infrastructure, we've really been focusing a lot on that. That's why the sewer, street, and sidewalks has been a big focus of ours. We are working on some water and sewer extensions for some development sites that we have, and lots of smaller grants out there. So it's been a labor of love. I know a lot of y'all are volunteers. We are too in small government. I work a full-time job as a project manager for a solar developer. So this is just me and council members. This is truly because we love Chansey. We want it to improve. We want to take this opportunity, or else it's going to pass us by. So we put a lot of effort into this, and in the hopes that life might be a little bit easier for our residents in newer years. So yeah, thank you.
Sam, I'll get his slide going.
Oh, very good.
Sam who? Name is Sam. Yes, I'm wherever you like, Sam. Let me,
I'm Ken's pitch hitter since the first person was unable to come, so I jotted a few things down about Delphus.
you know, oh, Bob?
Yes.
Oh,
Sam,
We're
in
happy to have you
case
here,
you
Sam.
don't, Sam is many things to the Buckeye Trail and the Miami-Dade Canal Corridor Association, and the Miami-Dade Canal chapter of the Buckeye Trail, and former Delta section supervisor, and probably a host of other things. But Sam is, if nothing else, our lead champion for the village of Delphus.
In other words, other places in Northwest Ohio.
And
Yes.
other-
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Delphus's journey to become a trail town all starts back in 1845 when the Miami-Dade Canal came through town. I would say more than likely Delphus would not be a trail town without having towpath from that long ago. State of Ohio started building our canal system in 1825, and it's still in use today. So 199 years old, celebrating 200 years next year. In 1973, Spencerville, the community south of Delphus, and St. Mary's teamed up together to ask the Ohio government to create a linear state park. It had the backing of a prominent state representative. It did not pass the vote. But more than likely, the BTA was involved in pushing that. And then come 1974, 90, or 75, the all state parks are given the opportunity to create a project for the bicentennial United States. After some thinking, they decided to link the two state parks via the towpath and create a linear trail between Grand Lake and Lake Loramie State Parks. Additionally, they extended it to Delphus. During those years, there were numerous hikes occurring throughout the 40-mile stretch, most of the led by politicians. And I'm sure the BTA was involved with that as well. When the Buckeye Trail reached Delphus in the mid-1970s, and since they were on this newly created linear path, Delphus responded by providing two of their city parks for campsites for hikers. One was on the south side of town, Waterworks Park, which was a few blocks off the trail, and one was on the north side of town, Stadium Park, which is adjacent to the trail. When the Buckeye Trail was first laid out through Delphus, the route followed city sidewalks as it was the easiest way through. In the 1980s, the North Country National Scenic Trail was created. They liked the towpath so much, it became a certified segment. In 1989, the Delphus Canal Commission and Museum was created, without which Delphus would most likely not be a trail town today. The Delphus Canal Commission took it upon themselves to have work parties to clean up and remove the brush along the canal, Miami Canal, which bisects the town. With the towpath along the canal now clear, the Buckeye Trail was relocated from the sidewalks to the towpath about 7 years ago. In 2006, Johnny Appleseed Metropolitan Park District created a gravel path from Deep Cut to Spencerville. In 2018, Johnny Appleseed Park District worked on phase 1 of a packed gravel trail, starting at the northern limits of Spencerville and extending about 4 miles toward Delphus. In 2019, they followed up and completed it to the Delphus city limits. In 2021, a packed gravel trail at Delphus' south limit. Once again, the Delphus Canal Commission jumped into action. They created the Delphus Walk Path Committee. The committee, it is made up of interested Delphus Canal Commission people, local business leaders, and city leaders. The committee starts planning on what it would take to get a crushed path through town. The plan detailed 5 phases, with each one taking a year. As of now, they are still awaiting permits to start the work. In the summer of 2021, the Delphus learned the city of St. Mary's will become a trail town. Once again, one of the trustees of the Delphus Canal Commission gets the application and forwards it to a city personnel to fill it out. So in 2022, Delphus became a trail town. When the Delphus became a trail town, they did not delay in making more things to help out the hiker. And once again, they started with making kiosks. Okay, that's on the north side of town and the south side of town, to show where the hikers and amenities within the town. They faced an obstacle though, because the location they originally planned to be needed for and had to be changed because ODNR recently changed their policy, which stated no signs to be placed on the right of way. So therefore, they had to look for alternative locations and found one on the city property and one on Delphus St. John's property adjacent to the trail. Once the approved trail is complete through Delphus, they plan on signage, benches, and historical marchers. And the community will then have walks similar to what St. Mary's does. You go to the next one there. Yeah. What they have on the sign, the kiosk. they plan to update that whenever they have, extra flyers and brochures when activities are happening in the town. That's all I got.
Thank you. Up next, we have Dawn King. She is our Buckeye Trail Association volunteer from the great village, village of Manaway.
There's two of us and I guess. Oh, there's a village and then there's a township and I can never remember which one we are.
And they have a great mural in
We
Manaway, I
several
have to
of
tell
them
you.
now, yeah.
Okay. Where do you wanna?
I'm gonna come over here. So I'm Dawn. I did not prepare for this. I just wrote this up real quick. Did not even think to do like a presentation or like slides. I'm not a techie person. So I'm gonna do this. This is it right here. This is Manaway, not Mantua or Mantuna. It's Manaway. We are up in Portage County. We share space with, we are the Burton and the Mogador section. Real quick, how I came to the Buckeye Trail about 8 years ago. I was down in the Cauga Valley National Park, went out for a 1 mile hike, and 8 hours later, I came out of the woods, having gotten lost. And most people will know, once you get to know me, I get lost and I'm late all the time. So I got lost, and throughout that hike and lost, I came across mountain men, and it was quite an adventure. And I kept seeing these blazes, and they were blue. And the mountain men told me about the blazes, and they were something to do with this Buckeye Trail. And I'm trying to pull up my maps on my iPhone, and I'm getting spotty service, and I became immediately obsessed with this Buckeye Trail. Went home and realized that I live 2 minutes from, I live in a trail town. I'm 2 minutes from the Buckeye Trail. And Manaway is awesome. And what I want you to know about Manaway is we have a new mayor, and we have new city council. We've got new sidewalks going in, we've got new streets, and we've got a whole new energy going on in my little town. I don't know, I've only been in Manaway for about 13 years. Most of the people, I'm part of the downtown Manaway revitalization consortium, I think is, or committee, one of the two. We support local business. There's about 20 of us. Most of those people have been there their whole lives, and as their parents were too. It's just an awesome little town. Our new mayor is Tammy Meyer. And so that's just a little bit of history there. I think we became a trail town in 2018, I believe. That's what is kind of coming to mind. So we really are trying to set ourselves up as an eco adventure kind of destination. At one spot, if you're standing on our bridge, we are sharing space with not only the Buckeye Trail, but the Cauga Crooked River National Scenic River goes right under right under the Buckeye Trail there. We share space with Headwaters Trail, which is part of Portage Parks. We share space with the Discover America Trail, and I believe the North Country Trail there too. No? Okay. But we have a lot going on there. So we're really trying to set ourselves up as that. We have 3 kayaking opportunities when you come into town. We also do a lot of races through there. There's a lot of 5Ks. And what I did once I became obsessed with the Buckeye Trail is I'm kind of a linear person. So I started at Lake Erie and started working my way down the Burton section, the Mogador section, and then I believe it becomes the Tuscarora section, Massillon. Okay. And then I've made my way pretty much spotty down to Cincinnati. And what I will say is Manaway is one of my favorite sections, not just because I live there, but it's just a really beautiful section. It's become a lot easier to access after heavy rain. You see swans. It's really lovely. There are opportunities to bike through there. You could bike the section between Manaway and I call it Hiram because that's where I came through first. If you're really adventurous and you're proficient with biking. The Buckeye Trail part that shares space with the Headwaters Trail is an awesome biking opportunity. And I completely lost my train of thought. So when you come off, well, you're not even going to come off the trail. When you come through Manaway, it comes right through Manaway. You're going to pass Jake's and McDonald's. That's restroom opportunities right there. We have easy access to a post office, to a laundromat, Crooked River Flowers, where it's a lot more than just flowers. There's Restoration 44, which is a coffee shop. Right across the street, they have Restoration 44, which is a butcher. And that's options to carry out food there. They'll make sandwiches made to order there. So there's a lot of opportunities there. We have Trail Angels. So if you're coming through and you want to camp, you need a shower, you need a ride to Streetsboro where we have hotels, we're more than welcome. If we have a little heads up, we will be more than welcome to help you out with, or more than happy to help you out with that. We have a beautiful new B&B now. We have a new bulk food store. So there's a lot of options right there in Manaway to buy food and just to hang out a little bit. It's not huge, it's not big, but it's a great town to even off trail to walk around. We have a really cool architecture. I think we were founded in like 1800s by some people from Scotland. We had several taverns at one time and we had a brothel. Just saying. If you're into that sort of thing, it's not there anymore. Just saying. We have a convenience store that's easy access that has beer. I don't know if they have that beer that she was talking about. I don't know. So we do have that too. We have a drugstore too. It's a little expensive if you're looking for medication. Just a heads up if you're starting to feel a little coldish or what, but it is, if you need it, it's there. Streetsboro has a lot of hotels, relatively inexpensive. It's about 20 minutes outside of Manaway. Once again, if you needed a ride or something, myself or somebody else would be happy to help you. Edie Benner is our president of DMRC. She also she's a physical therapist. She owns Advanced Rehab, which is also on the trail. It's only there Monday. They're usually only there Monday through Friday business hours, but if you're coming through during those times, she'd be more than happy to help you out as well. I think she has a shower there and a bathroom. And if you needed help with anything, she'd be more than happy to help you with that. So we have trash and recycling options. Like I said, we have showers. We have a lot of events through the summer. The biggest one is our Art on the Hill, which happens the second Saturday of July, and it's huge. It's getting bigger every year. My goal is to always have like a Buckeye Trail booth at one of those events. So if you come through for Potato Fest or the Art on the Hill or whatever, look for the Buckeye Trail. Sometimes I have to work. I'm not always right there, but usually we do have a tent there. And then just in case you guys haven't heard, there's an eclipse coming, saying on April 8th. So we're setting up for that too. We're expecting stealth hiker or stealth campers, that sort of stuff. So we're going to be trying to accommodate that. So if you're coming into town for that, would be an awesome time to come into town for Manaway. If you haven't been there, please hit me up after the meeting. I'll be more than happy to give you my phone number. I covered the biking. So that I'm going to kind of leave. That's been a little bumpy. So we last year we're trying to start a festival just specifically for the Buckeye Trail. And we called it Triple Trail Fest because of the river and because of Portage Parks and Headwater Trail. And it's been a little bumpy. So I'm going to kind of bypass that right now. If you want more information, hopefully we'll have some, but I'm not sure about that this year, exactly what they're planning to do.
It was an awesome idea.
Yeah, so it's something, it's still on the burner. Are you telling me I have 2 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay. So that is something that's definitely one of our goals, is to set up a festival that's specifically for Manaway and for the Buckeye Trail. And that's about it. We have a new winery. I think I talked to you guys about the bulk foods place. We just have a lot going on. And what I will share too real quick about the Buckeye Trail is I got COVID at the beginning of the virus. I worked in a hospital and I worked in a nursing home. And it was an extremely stressful time. And the Buckeye Trail kept me sane. I was really focusing on the towpath, and there was just a lot of bodies out there. And so I kind of switched back to the Buckeye Trail. And because it was a little bit more isolated, people were a little bit more respectful of distancing. And then when I got it, I got long haulers, and it really helped me recover. And it just helped me stay sane. So the Buckeye Trail is it's just really close to my heart. And that's it.
Okay, now, since I like switched up the arrangement, Mark Heise is going to talk to us. Mark is the chair of the Miami Rivers chapter of the Buckeye Trail Association. And he's going to talk about Yellow Springs.
I'm gonna talk about Yellow Springs. So the way Yellow Springs became a trail town was kind of interesting. I went to my very first Trail Fest down in Hocking Hills. And the guy who came up here and introduced himself, Brett Onslinger from Metro Parks, had said, you need to go to this. And so I went there and I met Andrew. And I found out after living in Yellow Springs for 5 years that the trail went through Yellow Springs. I came home, I unpacked. Monday, I promptly walked into the Chamber of Commerce office and I said, why in the bleep did I not know that the Buckeye Trail comes through Yellow Springs? And it was at that point that we put ourselves on a 2-year track to become a trail town. Yellow Springs is a very unique place. It has always been a tourist town. I have a lot of locals who like to argue with me about that. But it was the very first building in Yellow Springs was in Glen Helen, and it was a stagecoach stop between Cincinnati and Columbus. The first mayor of Yellow Springs took a bag of cash to the Railroad Commission and bribed them to put the railroad through the village of Yellow Springs instead of the village of Clifton, which is why Yellow Springs is so much more popular than Clifton. But the key to that is the railway and the ties to tourism eventually became the trail that we know today, which is the Little Miami Scenic Trail that comes up from Cincinnati and then comes up to Yellow Springs and doglegs out to go to the city of Fairborn. Really, really lucky to have the trail in Yellow Springs, and we like to take advantage of it. One of the other unique things about my involvement with the trail and with Yellow Springs is that I just spent the last 2 years being the president of the Chamber of Commerce. It was important to me in messaging to go to our businesses and say, hey, we have this trail, we need to leverage it. We have Glen Helen, we have all of these outdoor adventure opportunities here, and we need to leverage it and tell people about them so they come here for that. And I was met with silence. I found out eventually, I went and talked to a number of the businesses, and I said, why? They said, well, hikers are dirty, bikers are dirty. They don't have any money. They don't when they're walking through our town, they don't have any money in their pockets to spend. That's fine. That's great. But you know what? The reason to have a trail town and the reason to be welcoming to those folks who have been, some of them, the through hikers, look absolutely, as Randall pointed out, look like hobos. The reason to welcome them is because guess what? If you give them a good experience when they're walking through your town, they're going to bring their families back. They're going to bring their families back to enjoy the town, to take part in it, in the things that go on there. We have a lot of amazing amenities in Yellow Springs that are adjacent, and because of the trail, we have the Trail Town Tavern, we have the Yellow Springs Brewery, and we have the Tuck and Red's Moonshine Distillery, all on the trail. But the most wonderful thing, if you've never been to Yellow Springs, you do need to come to Yellow Springs. We have world-class entertainment. Dave Chappelle just opened his very first club on the trail in Yellow Springs and is offering it as a part of that plan, and it's not quite completed yet. As a part of that plan is offering cycle parking, is going to be lighting the trail between his club and where the brewery sits. It's a whole development along the trail, and that's what being a trail town is all about. It's that partnering between that confluence between outdoor recreation and community and economic drivers within the community. Because when you talk to realtors, a lot of them, especially when you're talking about putting a bike trail, typically along there, they hate it. They hate it. And when you explain to them that actually that increases their property value by approximately 10%, all of a sudden, this is the best thing in the world. So what I want to impart to you and the lessons that I've learned from Yellow Springs, it's important that your community know about the trail. You got the shirt that I made for you guys. You have the only specific Trail Town shirt.
Yeah, this actually somebody made.
I actually made a set of those. for your trail, for your Trail Town dedication.
I think I might have. Somebody made it for me for Triple Trail Fest.
So, and that's, and on a,
Latitude's not on that. Not
I
on-
don't think it's as nice as.
Yours has the latitude, longitude on it.
it does. But last thing that I want to say and on a personal note, about my Trail Town experience in Yellow Springs and the fact that it is an economic driver. Just to give you an idea, my daughter and I started a business in Yellow Springs. I'm gonna be done long before that. My daughter and I started a business in Yellow Springs, doing promotional products, T-shirts and things like that. And that had turned, and the reason that we started was actually because of outdoor adventure sports, because that man over there was one of the few people. I found a need to create small team runs of shirts that are affordable. And so we created this business out of my basement. Right now we're on 2,000 square feet of production space. We're doing all of the merchandising for the Buckeye Trail Association. For 3 years, we had done all of the merchandising for the Finger Lakes Trail Conference. We've done some of the merchandise for Miami Valley Mountain Biking and a number of other organizations. There is a lot of money to be had that needs to be brought to our communities. And I'm just happy that we were able to convince Yellow Springs to embrace the trails. One other thing, that after we became a trail town, there are two things that were attracted to Yellow Springs, partially because of that. One of those gentlemen you'll hear from at 3 o'clock today, his name is Eric Oberg. Yeah, that's your cue. He will be here. He is the regional director of the Rails to Trails Conservancy, and the regional headquarters is located in Yellow Springs. And for a period of about 3 years, the regional headquarters for IMBA, the International Mountain Biking Association, was located in Yellow Springs. So that's kind of an exciting thing. These are the kind of things I want to give you the idea of what kind of things you can develop as a trail town and what those partnerships can mean for your businesses and for your communities. Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Scott Krebs talking to us. Scott's actually going to address us twice, but this first one, he's going to be in the role of talking about the trail town of Shawnee, Ohio. And I wanted to give a shout out to Scott. He actually has an event going on in his town of Shawnee today that he was supposed to be working, and he was able to get somebody else to cover it. So we appreciate you coming in like you're, somebody else covering it for you, so.
Thank you. Yeah, we have our Saturday arts program for kids, happening for 8 weeks, and but I got one Saturday off, and I'm thankful for you as well, actually, because I didn't have to wake up at 6:45 and go do that. So I'm glad to see everyone here. Just stand up for a second, because I think we're like, I wanted to stand up maybe 20 minutes ago. So just stand up, move around a little, do a little stretchy stretch, and then take a deep breath, like super big, and hold it, and then slowly let it out. That feels better, doesn't it? You won't feel better to me instantly. So you can sit down, you can stand up, whatever you want to do. So I'm gonna hit you with 3 small jokes. Don't forget they're small. So if anyone laughs, that's inappropriate. So nostalgia, it ain't what it used to be. See, I work with kids, though. You gotta keep that in mind. Bring out your 7-year-old from wherever that exists. Yeah, and then where do bees use the facilities? The BP station. Again, I work with kids. And then what's that? How do you make a tissue dance? Put a little boogie in it. Nice. We had best for the last. That's number 3. So 3 jokes, and I'll give you 3 ways that we are engaged in the trail town culture in Shawnee. So one of the ways is that we have a growing group of collaborators in the Shawnee Trail Town Network. So we literally have worked towards, before I even came on sort of 3 years ago, there was a portion of a USDA grant and a grant that also supported us from the BTA, and kind of did a combined effort to have a coordinator And so I was happy to walk into that position. And as Andrew likes to point out to me, that like this big historical thing, that I was first, maybe still the only Trail Town coordinator that was paid. So it's pretty exciting. Not a lot, but you know, enough to like to make the books, right? But so that Shawnee Trail Town network is just a combination of mainly the, you know, started up as the nonprofits, and we're kind of like awash with nonprofits right in that whole region, obviously, but even directly to Shawnee. I mean, we got, you know, we have the Winding Road Initiative, we have the Little Cities of Black Diamonds Council, we have y'all right down the street on West Main. So just a quick show of hands, who has ever been to the village of Shawnee? No, you haven't? I'm pointing at you. Oh my gosh, like you've not been there? You're invited officially right now. Yeah, well, I will talk to you after, yes. Okay. No, I know. You guys are doing such awesome things. It's incredible. So yeah, so I mean, in terms of Trail Town culture, I guess you get like this sort of, maybe, I guess, weird to say maybe the administrative angle on it, but it is. It's like, you know, these folks that are, and Destination Shawnee is huge. They're kind of our CVB, but not, which actually we could talk further about that, but that's like a cool thing that that they're just an organization that is sort of self-run, and they it is made up of the previous mayor and another community member who's on like all the different boards and all that. So we're growing, even though it seems kind of like, wow. I mean, you can go and you'll see the tumbleweed, you know, when maybe we will Amy see a tumbleweed when we're there, because it's, I mean, during the week it's like, it's kind of dead. I'll be honest. It's not like, you know, everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at all the new things that have happened. Although that's often like a comment that's made, is because, you know, we've got the architecture on that main street. We have, I mean, I generally work out of the historic Tecumseh Theater, which is the building, the Tecumseh Theater. We have issues with crossover of people saying, oh yeah, I went to that when I was a kid. Like, no, that's different. That's up the road. That's the Tecumseh drama of the whole, you know, this thing. So no, we are growing, and we're having to make different decisions about like, how do we pull in, and what ways do we pull in the local businesses, because we already have sort of everyone else. And then so number two ways that we are engaged in a Trail Town culture is that we have, you guys mentioned different events, and I'd be curious to know some of your challenges, because I don't know if we have any similar challenges, but we have an event, the Blue Blazes Fest. Some of you may know about it. You should absolutely know about it this year to come. We have great bands, and it's more of a festival. We're trying to kind of like work that out, how we do it, but it's been getting more populated every year. And yeah, it's you know, well, really quick, just throw off like all the events that are, yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. So tell me all the runs and all that.
At the Blue Blaze Fest?
Yeah.
We have,
Tell them.
we have a 5K, 10K, half marathon, sometimes marathon. We have a backpacking overnight trip for beginners, and we have an easier nature walk as well. But that's just the trail oriented portion of the festival. And then we come for the street fair party at the end.
We're trying to figure out where to make that party happen, like, because it's like 10:30, everyone's done. We gotta work to make that like a more transitional kind of like, yeah, have a beer, but then have another beer and listen to this band and stick around with your family and all that kind of thing. But we'll maybe you and I can talk about that. So, and then the third would just be, and this is something I was getting real excited that we were just talking about, is that, so I work with the kids as well as the youth, as the director of youth development, and we want those kids on the trail as often as possible. We are increasing the time that they spend on the trail, and they're doing different things. One really super cool thing that they're doing is that we have some ecotourism entities that are coming out of of our neck of the woods and working in tandem with them to do like a nature and ecosystem audit and working with the kids out where they would bring their lunch and have it lunch on the trail and be identifying birds, trees, ecosystem, all of those things guided by dendrologists, by, you know, folks that are professionals and going and on that trail and then being able to log, you know, what they observed and all that. And then on top of it, like we have a counselor in training program, again, connected to our summer day camp, where they're going to be out just like they've been the past couple of years, doing the labor and doing, you know, how to build sustainable trail and get them out working in the woods together as a team. Y'all, some of you know how that feels, but it's pretty cool. And there's some really life-changing types of things that can happen just by, oh my gosh, this is in my backyard. Oh my gosh, this is a bigger trail. Wow, I didn't realize about building actual trail and making it last. I had no idea that we could, you know, like account for the ecosystem, eradicate some of the invasives, these types of things that kids, you know, literally hands-on in the woods. So those are my three, and I'm out.
Does anybody have any questions? Any quick questions? Anyone wants, Diane?
Just to say it out loud, could I suggest that anyone who spoke in the first two parts, we do a group picture when we break next?
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that.
Very
so
nice,
that we see
Diane.
everybody.
Very
So if you
good.
spoke in the last two times, come up there and I'll get the picture.
Good questions for the trail towns before we go to break, and then you can ask bigger questions, and in case you came in late or need reminded, write your big questions for the panel on these cards, and I'll ask for them before the panel happens.
So, yeah, we're ready to take a 10-minute break, and if you've spoken, Diane is our photographer, so she's gonna.
How are ya?
I'm in the down in the I look like a lot of.
This is work in progress, so we saved all of our land buildings for demolition and then fenced them off, and that is where we would like that to be. Okay.
Some of the local when I make money off of it. They needed to make a profit. It needed to be such an kind of profit. Yeah.
they ended up going well. Healthy and associates in our hopefully
agendas going on there, just this little, yeah, I still have.
yeah. 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 But so
Great, like, they're called the wild honeybee, they do a lot of corn, like really cool, but then they want to pay, you know, and give each of their band members like $100. He did that and, you know, we wanted to scale up a little bit and you know, we may not be able to get them again. We try to kind of basically, because the whole thing is that we don't actually have this control of making money. Our main goal is to bring everyone in, bring awareness up, talk about the Buckeye Trail, have the artists thing, you know, all those, the stuff that happens out of that. So, yeah, I think like that was kind of it's where you have these like little things that you didn't expect and that just create hard stuff. You get people that are like, I don't know if I want to do it. You know, any kind of planning and the energy that, because it takes a lot of energy to be like, you know, especially I think one added factor or challenge in Shawnee is that it's in Shawnee. People are like, let's do there, check out the meeting, which for people with, we're having a meeting every couple of weeks or every month, then it starts to, you know, or then we go on Zoom and kind of nail things out. We have done that and stuff, but it does create another hurdle. So nonetheless, I was just curious what your and this is here. Take a shower.
Trail. We have some. Yeah.
My area of knowledge of what important.
previous slide.
Hey, we are doing good. We have pretty much not lost many people here. Maybe we've gained a couple more that have wandered in from somewhere else. No. We are recording the session. Just want to bring that up so everybody knows. So we are going to talk about community engagement in this hour. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about the Buckeye Trail Town network that we have going on. So we began our program in 2012 with our Trail Town of Milford. This is in no particular order except for Fort Laramie is our latest one. Towns were added through 2018. So the Trail Town coordinator position, we have 3 paid positions in the Buckeye Trail Association, and the Trail Town coordinator is not one of them. So it kind of went on a hiatus in 2018. And then I was asked to take over the position in 2020. So when starting in 2020, we kind of changed some things and clarified some things. And we were mainly trying to get back in touch with our trail towns because literally we had not been in touch since 2018. I was opening up my Gmail from 2018 and I was seeing people that wanted to become a trail town, St. Mary's, for example. So I just was like, hey, I'm the new trail town coordinator. Sorry, we haven't talked to you in 2 years. Do you still want to be a trail town? And St. Mary's did, so it worked out well. It's nice when you can just be honest, like, you know, we're a volunteer organization and we had some open positions. So we now have 20 trail towns, soon to be 21, but I didn't want to steal their thunder by announcing something and then having, you know, Ohio Trail Town Summit. We need to celebrate them, you know, on their own. So we have like kind of the Buckeye Trail Towns, we have like 4 items to be considered a Buckeye Trail Town. One, you need to be on the trail. This seems self-explanatory, but we've had people inquire about towns and we have to say, no, I'm sorry, you're not on our trail and we don't really see us going around your town in the near future. Second of all, we need to be incorporated. So we have an administration to partner with. So number 3 is a new one kind of since like 2020. We want to have overnight camping available to our trail user, hiker or biker. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it can't just be somebody's front yard to be like considered like an official camping site, unless of course maybe you have you administer a campsite that is in your backyard. But you know, if Sam lets people like live in his front lawn or camp in his front lawn and then he moves to Florida next year, maybe that next person is going to say like, you're not camping on my front lawn anymore. Then therefore we've lost our camping resource. And we have a lot more trail users that do want to camp out overnight. They do want somewhere they want to camp. They either want to hike longer or they just want to experience camping. We're trying to, you know, we have very few through hikers, and then some of it is the difficulty of we don't have, you know, overnight camping like the Buckeye Trail does. So one of my main interests with trail towns is succession planning. So we have 20 trail towns with varying levels of engagement. We get an enthusiastic person and then they're gone and time marches on and then we fall out of communication. So in 2023, I conducted 3 virtual meetings on 3 different days to try to get people from the trail towns, like city officials, interested parties, so I could update them on the Buckeye Trail and what's going on with us and like find out what's going on with them. So at the time there was 18 trail towns. So I had 8 out of 18 trail towns attend. So I thought that was pretty good. I mean, people were busy. You know, you don't have a lot of spare time. One of the things we've started to do, we've made a self-assessment form, and we will probably have this be part of the new application for a trail town. This is like, you take the form and you walk through your town and you see if you have like, can you check all these boxes? Is Is the trail safe? Is the trail well marked? Do you have overnight camping available? Maybe the answer is no. So maybe that's something you can take back to your city council or Parks and Recs. Say, oh, well, maybe do we want to have camping? Is there a shelter that, you know, the city administration or town administration says would be a good idea? So, and another idea I'd like to have with going forward with our Buckeye Trail towns is to have a yearly meeting. It can be virtual, it can be in person, but I'd like to have, like, you know, someone from each town attend, tell us what's going on with their town. What events what's new in their town? You know, are there new amenities that we don't know anything about because no one has let us know? I was in Wakeman, one of our trail towns, and they have this fancy brand new gas station that's, you know, one of those fancy ones that sells like everything under the sun. I didn't know about it till I was driving through Wakeman. So no one had told us, and we couldn't like kind of promote that out there unless we know that. So just consider, I mean, this kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, but succession planning is something like, for at least from me, from the Buckeye Trail, I really would like to try to move forward with. So we have engaged officials that we can keep going. So when somebody moves out of town, we don't lose our entire context. So we have something going on in the town with Parks and Recs or city administration that can, you know, that we can still have communication with our towns. And that's all I have. And now I think we are back to Scott Krebs.
Oh.
Now, Scott, Scott is, he, like he said earlier, he was actually I don't know what the situation is, but he is the Shawnee Trail Town coordinator. I think this is one of like the first towns maybe in Ohio that had a trail town coordinator. So Scott is going to talk just a bit about goals, accomplishments of the Shawnee Trail Town Network.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just like lay out something about our collaborative process with this Trail Town Network that I referred to earlier. I'm going to be a little shorter maybe, and then we can have kind of a Q&A, active Q&A. I think I'm allowed to do that. So
10 minutes.
there we go. We'll give it the 10 minutes. But so basically, one of the biggest things that you know, processes like communication. What type of communication has worked, and what we have adopted is a model. You know, people talk a lot about collaboration. Oh, it's a collab, it's this, we're collaborating. It's very much just like a ubiquitous term. But when you put teeth to it, when you like have a group of people who are working towards developing shared vision or, you know, shared goals, like what we have gone to is a collaborative model. And it's not just cool, we're working together model. It's again a model that is one thing that I could speak to is like, so whenever we're making a decision as a group, there are times where we go around literally to every single person and just get their general thoughts on what we're dealing with. Sometimes it'll be a bit more organized than that with a more directed question where then we still do the rounds. Another thing that is slightly different than like meeting and then somebody says, well, how do things get processed or passed or whatever? Well, what happens is, so it's not Robert's rules. And even recently I was like willing to give up the other sort of collaborative stuff and is to say like, we need to just be organized. We need to do this Robert's rules stuff. Just so that we have it, you know, defined, we're moving ahead, we're making decisions, and quite honestly, basically just working with a person who she runs a business with a partner in they're outside of Asheville, and they specialize in group processing and the collaborative model. And so going to them and then planning out a meeting where we did not have Robert's rules, but we did make headway. It is like you know, again, that you can contact me if you're interested in this. But basically what we have done is continue that collaborative process. Someone might say in the group, like, I'm not totally comfortable with this. And that's totally okay. And we don't then move ahead, and make a decision because we have someone that's like, you know, wait, can we go back to, you know, thinking about it like this, back a couple steps, whatever it may be, to involve that person and to sort of like value what they are saying. So, and again, there's different ways to do that. We have sort of like an all around thing, but sometimes we can keep it more brief. And I just mention it now because it's a lot of front end development stuff, and it's to where, like, normally, you know, relationships are built over time, and the more trust you have, the more you can change, right? What's the quote? It's like the pace of change is directly proportional to the amount of trust you have within your group. And that is completely what we go on, is that if there's extra time that we need to spend on something, it can seem annoying at the time, but it's built from the ground up from everyone in that group, and that they are validated, and that, yeah, sometimes it's, well, let's do an MOU, or let's make it more official, or whatever the case may be. But like, it's building literally grassroots, it's building from the individuals. And so we really benefit from that, I think. And I think that some of the things that we're going to be even more successful at is just like weathering the storms, whether it's economic, whether it's whatever. We're building like the base of this group of people who care about sustainable development, who care about kids. We didn't realize how much everyone cared about kids until we did a recent activity, and they're like, we want to do stuff for the kids. We want to put them on the trail. We want to have the day camp. We support that. And what ways can we support that even more? And so that's been an exciting journey. And like I said, I'd be happy to answer any questions about that, the collaborative model, and even put you into contact with our person who is a trainer and of that specifically. So anyways, let's do 2 quick questions. Go.
We're going to stop. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
So what is a trail town coordinator? Is every trail town, are they supposed to have one of these, or?
Andrew? Okay, I'm on that. Well, like I mean, I guess. Yeah. Guys, what have you been doing, Scott? I mean, so I guess you know, we plan we've moved towards having quarterly meetings, but I think some people we're trying to decide whether we want more. So it's it's keeping in touch with everyone, having a solid agenda that has agenda items that is, you know, helping people connect and be responsible for A, B, or C. It's just being like the general sort of, you know, person who makes the meetings happen, and then figures out and tries to keep it not just on me to get on. It's like, we want to create this sort of more beneficial and effective communication model. So it's probably not answering your question at all. Do other places have to have you know, a trail town coordinator? Maybe not necessarily.
What was your goal?
What was the
As-
goal
yeah,
when?
As a trail town coordinator, what was it? Was just to get more people in Shawnee interested?
It was that, and then it was also like combined efforts on looking at some of the actual like signage is a huge one. So marketing and signage, that's been a big piece of it. And it was also written into the USDA grant. So that was like, okay. And then, yeah, like our, like the outcome. So one deliverable, if you will, is like, for the historic opera house and whatnot, on the first floor, it's a beautiful little room. It's exposed brick. It's not anything too much or too little, but we provide that. So anyone that's part of the the Shawnee Trailtown Network, does not have to pay the rent for that space. That's just one example of like a tangible thing that is a deliverable. And so like I happen to also organize that, like I'm the theater manager. So yeah, it's just sort of come out of like, yeah.
One point, since you asked me to jump in, that since we helped to create the position, it was that even in a small town of 700 people, you had 5 different organizations, entities trying to do their own good for the town and not talking to each other because they didn't like that group. And I don't like that group, but every group was trying to do the same thing, something good for Shawnee. The facilitator type role got to say, well, how can everybody help you with your event? How can that event not happen at the same time as the other person's event? How can we get the county to help with all of your events? And so coordinating everybody's well wishes for town into like one direction rather than competing for the few people that they have.
Okay, Amy has a real quick question.
Yeah, what USDA program?
That's a good question. It's
Years ago, I don't.
the name.
Economic revitalization.
Yeah, I think it's just the revitalization.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Scott? Because we're running out of time.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Dan Foley, the Executive Director of the Great Miami Riverway. And he sent me a really small picture.
Should. Doesn't bother. So I'm Dan Foley. I'm the director of the Great Miami Riverway based here in Dayton. And I came to this work after about 20. This is a small picture. I came to this work after about 28 years in local government. I was a Montgomery County Commissioner here in Dayton for about 12 years. And I was a commissioner when we had really bad economic times after the 2008 housing crisis. And so some of the stuff that we usually would invest in, we kind of had to put that aside. And so I kind of always felt that, around here in a lot of our communities, you got some main drivers for the economy. Here it's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is close. It's the logistics economy around 70 and 75. And we've got a lot of manufacturing. And so after we kind of made it through that, I kept thinking, man, this river we have here, the Great Miami River, I wasn't the only person thinking it, really has an opportunity to be part of this economic driver in the community. And so we were able to pull down a grant from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to do a master plan of the whole Great Miami River corridor. And I'm just going to show you real quick what that looks like. Sorry about that. So this is the corridor that we work with, and it goes from Sydney at the north all the way down to really basically the Ohio River. So we work with 20 entities, 11 cities, 2 counties, 5 park districts, and we really work to try to use the river as an economic driver. And so that's kind of how this started. And so we've got all the communities pay into the riverway. We're housed at the Miami Conservancy District, which is a flood control agency, but the Miami Conservancy District cares about the fact that they want people to use the rivers. And so the Great Miami is Ohio's only national water trail, and we're connected by 350 miles of paved trail, right? Which is, and it's not insignificant, it's the largest connected paved trail system in the country, where the Buckeye Trail has 3 trail towns, Dayton, Piqua, and Troy. But I wanted to make a personal note here because one of the reasons why, when we talk about how do you build community in the trail towns, I kind of came to it from a couple different personal ways too. And my buddy Rick Andrews is here. Rick is the department chair for Sinclair Community College's Department of Accounting. And Rick organizes this great bike trip every year where like 10 or 12 of us get on a bike in Rick's driveway. He lives in Tip City, just south of Troy. We hop on the Great Miami River Trail. We go to Bell Fountain, and we spend the night in Bell Fountain, and we eat, and we drink too much beer. We eat food, and then we get on the bike and we go to Findlay, same thing, and then Findlay to Put in Bay. And these guys have been doing it for, I don't know, Rick, how many years? 12, 13. And by the way, Rick should be the person speaking because he is like, when Melinda was talking about, about people spending money, I mean, the 12 of us who are on those bikes, I mean, we're not pumping millions of dollars into the town, but it seems to me that that's the kind of people that you're trying to get to all of these trail towns, right? I mean, I think. So I just wanted to say thanks, Rick. Rick and I are doing a trip on the Allegheny Passage this summer in July. And I might need to, we'll keep track of how much you spend. So just a couple other ways that we build, we build constituency in our trail towns. And I just show this because the Great Miami River is full of these old buildings that had a prior use and now have a potential for a higher and better use. This is a coal plant that Dayton Power and Light shut down in 2013. A company just bought that, and they're going to redevelop this property into a 200-acre mixed-use site. It's going to have 300 housing units. It's going to have a bunch of outdoor recreation fields. It's going to have indoor recreation fields. And then they're also taking down that low dam right in front of the power plant so that people can paddle. The other thing about this, and it's not in the picture, the Great Miami River Trail is just to the right. And so this company is trying to have a meeting with the local, with the state engineering folks and to try to make sure that people can get off their bikes and get across the river so they can enjoy all the amenities that's going to happen. And I give this example because, the Great Miami River was also the home of an old canal system, the Miami-Erie Canal System. And because of that, we've got a bunch of old power plants. We've got a bunch of old paper mills. We've got a bunch of old buildings that have, again, might have outlived their past use and have a chance for a better life. When this thing is up and running in about 3 years, it's going to be probably a $250 million investment right on the river, right next to the bike trail. And the idea there is to really, get people off the trail and have something to do that's fun. So this is an example of the work that we try to support. The other thing that we support heavily is filling in gaps on the trail system. We were able to get some money recently to fill in the gap between Middletown and Hamilton. For all of you who've done this kind of work, and I know, Andrew, you've done this, some miles of trail are easier to build than others. 5 years ago, there was an engineering firm that did a design to connect Middletown and Hamilton. And in the last 3 years, the river has eaten into where the design happened. And so now they have to go back and really try to figure out plan B, because they're worried if they build that trail section on the original design, they're worried that it's just going to fall into the river, right? And so this stuff gets very hard, but we don't have a big pot of money, but one of my jobs is to advocate with state and local and federal officials to help fund some of this stuff. And I will say, I think I'm right about this. I mean, we live in a pretty polarized world politically, but I feel like people support this stuff, whatever your political stripe is. I mean, we went in front of the Butler County Commission, and I have to say, and I'm a former commissioner, so I know some of those folks pretty well. Sometimes I think people look at me like I'm going to hug a tree, but really, after we had a dialogue about it, they put $2.5 million into this trail system because they recognize that it's not just about future development, but there's already all these people who live around this trail, but they just can't get connected to it, right? So in my opinion, sometimes this stuff is not easy. You have NIMBY issues, and we're trying to connect Sydney to Piqua right now. We got the funding to do that from the state. We're going to be about a mile from filling in the gap between Sydney and Piqua. There are some landowners that are not real happy with the way the path is going to go. So you got to work through that stuff, right? And I don't know if Melinda said it or somebody mentioned it before, that property values increase when you put a trail. I forget who said that, but I need to go talk to the people who are not happy that the trail's going next to their house in Helmet, by the way. So we have 11 cities. We're going to have our Riverway Summit in Piqua on April 19th, which is a Buckeye Trail town. We're going to have about 300 people there, and we're going to be at the Fort Piqua Plaza Hotel downtown. And I tell you this because these communities are all different, and they're not all at the same place, but they all have really cool kind of historical amenities. And we're going to be in this Fort Piqua Plaza, and our speaker is going to be the CEO of Eddy Line Kayaks, which is a real high-end kayak manufacturer from Bentonville, Arkansas. And he's also the head of the Paddle Sports Trade Alliance, which is a big industry association. So we're going to get on the trail that day too. So thank you. That's kind of a little bit about how we build community on the trail.
Thank you. speakers are going to be Melinda Von Steen. She's from the Central Ohio Greenways, she's the Central Ohio's Greenways Program Manager, which is the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, also known as MARPC. I like to say MARPC. And then Bilzies. Tom Bilzies is the president of the Ohio to Erie Trail Route. And let me get this up here.
Actually, can Tom go first?
Yes, oh, yes. Yeah. Do you want me to just leave this up here as?
Yeah, sure, you can leave it up there.
And Tom is he's speaking first because he's actually got his own presentation at the Adventure Summit that he's got to run off and go do. So we appreciate you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. The Ohio Erie Trail is in what I call a transformative stage right now. If anybody has worked in a corporate world, know that when 80% of your goal gets completed, you should be looking ahead. And we are now at 90% complete, fully on trail. And actually, I can say for the first time ever, all those remaining miles are in some sort of process, early engineering, visioneering, some in grant process, and we will have some being built. So that goal is coming to fruition. And knowing that, the trail has expended some money to go into a visioning process to see where we go from here. And we did meet in a weekend, and Melinda actually was one of our participants, and we brought people from all across the state into this retreat, about 20 people. And the message was pretty clear, and the main number one priority is let's finish the 10%. And so we're confident that's going to happen. But we came up with what we call bold steps of where we need to go from now. And there were 5 of those. And the sessions I heard earlier speak to those. And these are being worked on. So I don't publish them yet because they are being worked on. And basically is that we're going to complete that trail. And then we want it to be the heart of it all. And I wish I would have brought a diagram. In the Ohio Erie Trail booth, we have this a map of Ohio by ODOT, and it basically shows all the bicycle routes and all across America, United States bicycle routes, Ohio bicycle routes, and significant Ohio trail networks. And I like your presentation. You talked about things being connected and everything. And it's significant if you see it, but there's one common theme when you look at that map. There's this great big stripe diagonal down through the state, and it's the Ohio Erie Trail. And almost, I think there are 6 or 8 United States bicycle routes, which largely go coast to coast. There are 22, I believe, Ohio bicycle routes, and they almost all cross the Ohio Erie Trail. So it kind of is the heart of it all. So it comes down to a lot of tourism marketing and a lot of really getting people engaged. And that's kind of what our main next focus is, forming relationships. So I'm so happy with Andrew and the Buckeye Trail and the other. And we're working on that because we understand that there's power in being together. And then the final one is connecting with communities and investing in communities. And we heard a lot of that in her presentation, is that we know there's a lot of communities that embrace the trail. And we see that the Ohio Erie Trail passes through 27 communities. They were from large cities like Cleveland, Akron, Columbus, Cincinnati, to small things like Fredericksburg, Ohio, or Centerburg, Ohio. And any of those cities that embrace it, it's just growing. It's really amazing the amount of people. I'll give you a real quick fact, is that we began tracking commercial. It's hard to track who goes from Cincinnati to Cleveland, right? But we can track the interest of commercial entities. And in 2019, we had 3 commercially escorted tours. Those are high-priced tours. But you talked about spending money. These are tours that average $2,600 plus for a tour. We had 3. And by 2022, we went to 9. So we tripled in a few years. 2023, we went to 17. And this year, I believe we're at 19. That is a statement. And now there are tours that are up to $4,500 and 36. And some of the most expensive ones, adventure cycling, $3,600. They have two and they sell out. Isn't that amazing? People are spending that money. You're happy about that, aren't you? In Ohio, people are going to Europe. They're spending that money in Ohio. So now what the board realized, our power is helping these cities and businesses. And we're allocating money to do that. We're putting money, you know, where our mouth is. And when Melinda may talk about the Trail Town program, we were one of the funders, along with Trails Conservancy and Central Ohio Greenway, Morpsey, to get a Columbus Southeastern grant. And when we did that, here's an interesting thing. We had to choose, the project chose, where would we get this? What would we target? And we decided to target the trails and that pass through Columbus area, Ohio Erie. And we got money from the cities. We asked the cities, they contributed, and the trails contributed, and everybody sees it. So I just wanted to speak to say that not only in biking, Ohio Erie Trail is more than a bike. I hate that ours being called a bike trail, but people are spending money, and we are investing. We're going to work with Melinda. She may talk about her next steps she's taken, and know that the Ohio Erie Trail, once trail towns are really much move forward. And turn it over to Melinda.
Hi, I'm Melinda Von Steen. I'm not Melinda Huntley. It's really exciting to be in a room with another Melinda. Like, it doesn't ever happen, so it's fun. And I also just want to thank everyone for giving up their Saturday to come talk about Trail Towns. This is really fantastic to see people of all sectors and see all of you that are passionate about trails in one way or another come and think about how we can all work together to advance this Trail Town concept. And thanks, Andrew, for inviting me. I'm from Dayton, so I've been able to bump into some high school friends here. So it's been personally fun to be here as well.
You want me to just hit whenever you want to?
Yeah, you can go ahead and advance to the next slide or scroll down, however I want you to do it. Okay, so I work for the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, or our friends call us MORPSI. For those of you that might not know, MORPSI is an MPO, or a Metropolitan Planning Organization. So our core function is to allocate transportation funding to local governments. So a small portion of what we do is the Central Ohio Greenways program, and I oversee the work that we do on trails and greenways. Maybe about 10 years ago, we got pretty organized with the board and developed this regional trail vision to add 500 miles of multi-use trails to our existing network of 230 trails that mostly run north-south along our river corridors. And I'll say, when we developed this vision to add 500 miles of trails, Eric is part of our board and helped develop this with our Rails to Trails Conservancy as part of the board, and helped us envision this as well. We were really thinking that this was a bold, ambitious plan. And we had some people scoff at this vision of something that could never happen. But what we're seeing almost 10 years later is that this is not bold and ambitious anymore. This is going to be built. We're seeing more funding than ever before being allocated to trail projects, multi-use trail projects. And we're seeing support from local governments, from state entities and other partners looking at funding these trails. And so now what we're seeing is local governments coming to us and asking if we can think even bigger and bolder and expand our vision beyond these initial 7 counties into a full 15 county area and think about more connections into these trails. So that's one of the things that we're starting to work on. If you go to the next slide, we're partnering with an organization called Rapid 5. You may have heard of them. They recently established themselves as a land trust. So many of our existing trails are located along 5 major river corridors. Our trails are well connected to natural resources. Rapid 5 is looking at acquiring more land for public use. along these river corridors, connecting even more people to the natural amenities of our region. You can go to the next one, yeah. So we're not only well connected to natural resources and beautiful scenic places that people want to go, we're also well connected to a lot of different communities, a lot of different towns, cultural amenities. If you remember that chart that Melinda shared at the beginning of this session, all of the places people spend money and want to go are near trails. So we're really in a position to market ourselves and market trails as part of the fabric, the transportation fabric of our region. The next slide. And we're not just connected to other communities in Central Ohio. We're part of the Great American Rail Trail, a trail that goes from the West Coast to the East Coast. So we're really connected to the entire country through multi-use trails. So we really see, you can go to the next slide. We see an economic benefit and real economic opportunity to start investing in trail towns and the concept of trail towns. Like Tom mentioned, with the support of Ohio to Erie Trail Board, Rails to Trails Conservancy, and many, many other partners and local government partners, we were able to hire Amy Camp. I think she's famous. She's wonderful. She's the author of this book, Deciding on Trails. She's the person you go to if you're thinking about developing trail towns. So she helped us, you can go to the next slide, develop a trail town framework for Central Ohio that really put all of the diverse communities in Central Ohio first. That looked at meeting all of the needs, uplifting the communities of all sizes and characters and conditions, and creating this shared vision of a trail town region or of a trail welcoming region. So we worked with these 8 communities. And what's really exciting is our rural communities. So the light orange ones, these are communities that are directly along the Ohio to Erie Trail. And they came to Morpsey and they asked us if we could help them think about a regional program, how we could help them connect with each other and connect people from the trail into their communities. So they brought funding to the table for us to do this project. And typically for these types of things, we go to them and say, hey, we want to do this. And we try to convince them that it's a good idea. And it was the other way around this time. They were like, can you please do this for us? We need somebody to lead this regional effort. So we have communities, all sizes, backgrounds. We have urban neighborhoods that have been marginalized for generations. We're developing a program to uplift those communities and make sure that they feel as if the trail is for them as well. We have suburban communities, retail destinations, all kinds of communities that would be included in this program once we launch it. Go to the next slide. And what was central to this framework was that it focused on local quality of life. It focused on walkability within communities. And I have recently started thinking about the phrase trail towns a lot more and how we use it. And it's a really cute word or cute phrase, trail towns. We can all imagine towns with coffee shops and walkable, picturesque streetscapes. But it's so much more than that. It's about advancing Vision Zero goals. So making sure that we are reducing pedestrian and cyclist fatalities, making our communities walkable and safe for all people and comfortable. And if we can do that, then hikers, cyclists, paddlers, all of the people that are out doing adventure sports and want to come into a community can do so. They'll have the foundation, they'll have the infrastructure in place to feel safe and comfortable and welcome. And if we have all of that for the people that live here, then we can bring in more visitors to our community and bring in more tourism dollars. Next slide. So we developed this framework that has action items in these 6 categories up here on the screen. We're starting to advance some of them, and I'll share a little bit of what we're doing to advance some of these categories. But we're still looking for some funding to sustainably launch a trail town program. We know what we want to do. And we want to keep inviting more ideas into this program. But what we don't want to do is launch a program and not be able to sustain it and operate it over time. So you'll scroll to the next slide. In addition to laying out all of the things that we want to do once we find funding, and all of you can help us figure out the best way to find funding, we've identified some short-term community-driven action items that our local governments can do to start making their communities welcoming to trail users, so that when we do have funding to launch a full-blown Trail Town program, they're ready. They're ready to welcome people into their communities. So simple things like adding bike racks, adding cultural amenities or public art, encouraging events along trails, bringing in bike share or other types of things are things that we're recommending. And then here we can kind of just like scroll through the next 4 slides. I wanted to just share these photos. These are photos that Amy Camp took when she was touring our communities. And I love them because they make Central Ohio seem like a really trail welcoming, bike friendly oasis. So I guess I encourage you guys all to recognize the places where trail users and outdoor adventurists are already welcome in your communities. And I won't spend too much time on this slide. These are kind of the 5 places that we know that as an MPO in a region of our scale, we need to kind of address things, or our trail program might be unique. But I'll touch on number 3. We're a large regional entity, and we're also a metropolitan planning organization. And as far as I'm aware, there aren't any other MPOs in the country that are leading Trail Town programs or Trail Town work. And I think that we have an opportunity to take advantage of that. MPOs allocate transportation dollars. We have access to tons of funding to build trails and bike facilities and sidewalks. We'll always take more. But last year, we allocated $60 million just in Franklin County and a handful of pockets of other counties for standalone trail and bike pedestrian facilities. That's a lot of money. In previous years, we were allocating about 4 million. So we went from 4 million to 60 million, really demonstrating the growing support and prioritization our region is placing on these facilities. Go to the next slide. And then one of the things that was central to our work is thinking about the unique needs of urban and suburban communities and participating in a Trail Town program. The Trail Town model has been seen in being used in rural places and in small towns all across the country. So we wanted to think about, and we want to do that in Central Ohio. We have tons of rural communities that we'd like to support with economic opportunity. But we also want to make sure that we're thinking about how to include our suburban and urban communities into this concept. And with that, there are 3 considerations that are unique to drawing in urban and suburban communities. There's a culture shift and an experiential shift as you're going from a rural place to an urban place. In urban places, trails are a lot more busy. You might be crossing roads more frequently. Whereas in rural places, you may be on a trail and not see people for many miles, or just see a handful of people. I'll touch on the housing piece as well. One of the things that was really important and central to us with this is meeting some of these issues with empathy. We know that there is a housing crisis or near housing crisis in Central Ohio. We see our unhoused populations finding shelter along transportation corridors, whether that's a highway or a trail. So we know that we're not just building trails, making trails welcoming for adventure cyclists. We're making sure that the quality of life and the resources that all people that may be using trails is supported through this work. We know that a trail is not going to solve the housing crisis or solve the homeless crisis, but we can be part of a solution and we can meet that crisis with empathy. Next slide. So I shared a whole lot about things that we want to do once we find more funding, but we're also doing a handful of things already. We're working with Columbus's tourism group, Experience Columbus, on offering an outdoor trails pass, which is an online free passport where people are encouraged to check into destinations along our trails. We've offered curated itineraries. So if you have 2 hours to travel the trail, we're telling you the best places to take a selfie, the best place to stop and get a beer, stop and get some ice cream or something like that, or the best cultural destinations, what museums are right along the trail, things like that. And I'll wrap up here in just a second. So I want to, I guess, close this out by sharing something that we're working on, kind of a request from all of you. We're working on this Trail Town initiative. I think we're all acknowledging that we need more funding to do this, and we need more sustained funding. If you go to the next slide, we're working on an application to a federal transportation grant program called RAISE, where we're asking for millions of dollars to advance our Trail Town framework in Central Ohio. And what we're not trying to do is just build a Trail Town program for Central Ohio or for Columbus. We're trying to develop a model and prove that we need sustained Trail Town funding for all of Ohio. So what we're doing is we're developing a wider trail network for 15 counties in Central Ohio, identifying a handful of communities that we can pilot Trail Town plans with, where we will be building, designing pedestrian and cycling infrastructure to connect the town to the trail, and also developing cultural and social connections to the town, to the trail, to make sure that use of trails and active transportation and sidewalks becomes part of the physical, cultural, and social fabric of our communities. So if you go to the next slide, we've piloted one of these trail to town network building projects in the Columbus area, and we want to do more of that, but we need federal funding to do it. So if anyone is interested in just offering a letter of support and saying that you support the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission and asking for federal dollars to come to Ohio to study this, please, I think the last slide, you can scroll past this one. Here's my contact information. I'd love to work with you on this work and make sure that all of your ideas are captured and we can start to identify some real funding to operate the Trail Town program.
Any questions for Melinda? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go into our last break and then we're going to chat. Group part, or you just spoke, could you gather it? We'll get it. Well, probably.
It doesn't, it doesn't take much.
I had, yeah, I'm on the Navajo River Regional. 80 miles. Right. Yeah. Gas, like, because the part of the question right out the bat is, well, is it just the use trail? Yes, I'll agree. It's negative calculation, if the trailer. So that's all.
How many seats do you need up here? And Andrew, 5? Or are you gonna join?
Andrew's gonna facilitate. Anybody want to sit here, please?
What?
In the back.
Yeah, for me, blur it out.
Yeah. That one. Yes, yes, so. Hello. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, I was talking to someone earlier about that. Yeah, I got, second time, I was like, I just talked about this bridge. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. I think that city's scary too. Yeah. And. It hurts. Strange.
You couldn't get away.
All right, so now to get to talk. We got some questions. You guys have questions in your head. We have Melinda Huntley from the Ohio Travel Association next to the Melinda Bonstein of the
We're gonna get t-shirts.
Ohio Regional Planning Commission. We have, introduce Eric Oberg from the Rails and Trails Conservancy.
I'm not Melinda.
And another arrow there, right there.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be fun.
And Mark Allen from ODNR, Division of Parks and Watercraft Statewide Trails Administrator.
You could help me, Melissa.
So we have state and national level thinking professionals, and we have your questions. What I just want to make an observation of what we've heard today. We heard about in the first block, what are trail towns? Why might they be important to you, whether it's economic or for the trail experience? We heard that again from people down in the trenches, working in their trail towns and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis between mayors and community members and nonprofits because they care about their town. So just to give people ideas of what's possible around any town in the state of Ohio, big or small. And then in the third one, we heard about from folks who are developing trail town programs, which is like more than one town. And so those folks are generally trail oriented folks, like I'm trying to do the entire Buckeye Trail and all the towns on it, or Ohio to Erie Trail and that sort of thing. And so there's this question, just as a reminder. And as a reminder, we are recording. The first question, I want people to keep in the back of their mind, but you don't have to answer it now, is it's recommended in the trail vision that we should have an Ohio Trail Town program. It's nobody's responsibility, so we get to converse. Should we have an Ohio Trail Town program? And if they'll answer no real quick, we can go. So let's keep that one in the back here. So what I heard from questions right now on cards and stuff from you all. I pick one and get it to the panel here. What resources are needed to create an Ohio Trail Town program? What do we have so far? I'll just, for this first question, start on one side and one or two examples. Don't have to do a essay.
So
What resources do we need? What you've heard today or no?
What resources are needed? I like to start. I like to start with needs. Like, what are the needs, and then identify those resources to fit those needs, right? So I think best practices. easy to best practices. Access to expertise is really important, I think, for these towns. It on multiple levels. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's infrastructure, maybe it's funding, maybe it's right. But I think access to expertise. You know, one of the problems I see a lot, and one way to differentiate us a little bit, I see a lot of designation programs that they designate and then there's a big splash and then they disappear into the beyond, never to be heard of again. And so I think one of the other needs is more of a sustained way to promote the trail towns as well. Instead of a one and done, let's have a press conference, announce this, and then you don't hear about it again.
Well, we need so many things. But I think one of the things that we need is sidewalks and more connections that make our towns safer to walk in and more comfortable. So if we're expecting people to walk off of a trail into a community, we need to greet them with comfort and safety. So it may be a very practical thing, but the foundational thing that I think we can encourage all of our communities to prioritize.
I'm glad we went in this direction, so I get to talk before the state guy. What we need is an adoption of a program framework by the state of Ohio and the resources to staff an office that will run a state trail town program that can give the assistance to the towns that want to participate. Without sustained funding and sustained staffing, it's all just fluff. What we have are trails and towns that would be willing to participate and eager to participate, which is necessary. What we don't have is the support.
Well, more than that, we have trails, we have towns, and we have organizations.
Yes.
And, you know, others who are willing.
Mark, you don't need to rebut.
Mark agrees with me.
You can have your own.
Mark's gonna make it all happen.
Yeah, I think, so for me, I think there needs to be like a plan on how to move forward. I think the work Melinda is kind of spearheading with Morpsey is a great framework for trail towns, traditional like Buckeye Trail Town or the Ohio to Erie Trail Town. But you know, that equity kind of aspect is like, what about the other trail towns? I see you have on their motorized trail town. I don't know what that looks like, or an equestrian trail town for that matter. Within the International Mountain Bike Association, they did have a program called Ride Centers, which was their form of a trail town. So there's other models out there, but I think having a plan for what an urban trail town or a rural or suburban trail town is important. And then you can kind of figure out what that funding needs are.
And Morpsey is doing a lot of planning work to develop a framework for something we could do if we had sustained funding to implement this. So we're doing some great work, but it's a plan. It's not operational funding to operate this program.
That was the warm-up question.
Can I add one more thing? So I think the other thing, it is kind of along the same lines, but I want to see the good work that is being done leveraged instead of having to start from scratch. You know, I think that the work that is being done is important. It's being done by the right group. It could easily be rolled out to a wider scale. And I'm thankful that they're doing that. And I don't want to necessarily start the process over. I also think it's important, and I'm gonna back up here. Like, I think it's one thing to say have the state do it, but the state, they're run by administrators that are on a rotation. And I would want to make sure this program is protected, that it doesn't change focus with a new administration or different priorities that may shift. and all of a sudden we find ourselves, cold. So I think I would like to see it more as a collaboration, private and public versus just public entity. Running it for that reason. I just, not necessarily DNR, but in other areas, I've seen that happen. And one priority may shift. And then we have no program.
And I think thinking about where we can find funding from diverse pockets. One thing I didn't mention is that we recently got fairly substantial funding from ODOT to advance the Trail Town framework. They're helping us develop a wayfinding strategy. So something that's way more than just maps and signage, but really thinking about strategies to connect people to trails, make people aware that trails exist, and make their experience accessing the trails comfortable and safe. So if we could have funding from multiple state entities, if we're allowed to dream about where the funding would come from, that could be really
state or private.
Yeah.
So,
and private entities.
The other resource, just so that everybody is aware, is a five-year-old state trail plan, which was the first statewide trail plan done in over 20 years. One of the 63 recommendations in that trail plan was to explore and establish a statewide trail town program. So this isn't coming out of nowhere. This is coming from a plan that was done with a lot of people in this, a lot of organizations in this room, DNR, other state agencies. It was endorsed by the legislature. The opening page of that plan is a endorsement and signature of both Director Mary Mertz at DNR and Governor DeWine. So I take that as they support what's in it because they said, we love this, and they signed the front cover. So let's do it, right? We're just implementing what they said should be a priority.
Questions from the audience?
So is there anyone who's done any data consolidation of trail towns and the economic impact they've had so far, and how we can use that to market it to our regions or our community?
And I'm sure my other Melinda may have something too, but I think that most recent, that is the most current economic impact study I've seen. It doesn't speak necessarily just to trail towns, but that's been their philosophy since I think the first 10 years, is connecting those users of the trail to the towns. I think they created trail towns before there was a name coined trail town. It's packed with really valuable information and statistics. I don't know if, and I did search for, to look to see if I could find any other trail town economic impact studies. I don't know if you found any that are any.
I don't know of any specific to trail towns, but maybe you and I should connect on how to do a study well. As part of that federal grant proposal, we're looking to do economic impact analyses. So we're looking at choosing a diverse cross-section of 5 to 10 communities in central Ohio that we can study and develop trail town plans for, and also create economic opportunity analyses for. So
I love
maybe we
that
can
idea.
brainstorm how we can do that well.
I love that idea. Where's Ty? Is he still in the room? Yeah, he just left. Okay.
The other long linear study that's decent is the Katy Trail in Missouri. The state of Missouri did a decent economic impact study on the Katy, and it looks a bit like the Great Allegheny Passage, right? Long linear multi-use trail that has multiple towns along it that people are staying in. So it's not specifically looking at the success of a trail town program, but you're looking at the economic input or economic impact of trail users in communities along a connected trail network. So the Katy is a pretty decent one as well.
Not one for not an economic impact study on trail or trail town in Ohio, but applicable data from other trails.
And the Katy doesn't have a trail town program up and running. So I do, of any trail that has a program that has had a successful program, the Gap is really just, the Gap economic impact study is probably the only one with a real emphasis on trail town development.
As a microcosm, there is a report that was done within the last 3 years by Ohio State University on the economic impact of 45 miles of the Little Miami. And the communities around along the Little Miami, so that might be of interest just because it's Ohio.
I want to cut that off, but if there was a pause there for another question from the audience. We have one. Here's one for around Loveland.
These things available online?
They are.
You can use
I'll just plug ours too. If you go to railstotrails.org and you go to the resource library on railstotrails.org and you just search economic impact study, you will have a litany of studies to choose from.
Say similar on that topic for American Trails website.
American Trails is another good resource library, no doubt. Yep.
Yeah, and our Trail Town framework that we developed with Amy Camp is on centralohiogreenways.com. So tons of resources, including that document.
I love the idea of what you were talking about with an app that directs us. I'm a consumer, I'm a hiker. So I would love to have something, I stole this from the back, the Yellow Springs Visitor's Guide. A visitor's guide for each town on an app that says, don't miss this mural. Don't miss this, eat ice cream here, whatever. And then I noticed in this visitor's guide, it gave dates of important events that go on in the community so that I could maybe bring my husband back there to visit the community again. All of that in an app for the Buckeye Trail would be great. And Far Out is wonderful, but that doesn't accomplish that. So much of my time is spent figuring out where to park, how to hike 8 to 12 miles in one trip, maybe where to stay overnight. I don't have time to dig into the, local, websites to figure out what else we don't want to miss when we're in Shawnee.
And that's what the best, I would say the most successful trail town program on a multi-use trail, which is what I work on. So I caveat for hikers and other, but it was the initial iteration of the Trail Town program, and you're right, it was coined the Trail Town program by the Great Allegheny Passage and the CDFI that ran it at the time, the Progress Fund. It's actually trademarked. So if you're thinking of creating a program, do not call it Trail Town program, or you're going to hear from David. Believe me. Trail Town something, but don't use program after the words Trail Town.
I say Trail Town effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Trail Town is not Trail Town program together. That is trademarked. Be careful. And good for them. They created it. But it was all of the towns along the gap participating in the program had their own individual brochures. There was common marketing. So you knew, oh, this is a gap trail town because it looks the same, but you open it up like that, and every town created a new one each year. But that took staff in the program coordinating with the towns to put it all together. And it was fabulous. And it doesn't exist that way anymore. The program doesn't have staff anymore. It exists in name only, which is a shame because in its heyday, it was the gold standard.
Any thoughts with ODNR's revamping of the online GIS sharing or online mapping of all trails in Ohio? I'm struggling with that issue as well. So I'm on your web-based app, formerly known as Detour, or soon to be formerly known, and I'm hiking along, biking along, and paddling along. The kind of data and information I can get when I come to Loveland or Shawnee or Manaway, of geolocated. What have you guys talked about? What you currently have and what?
Yeah, so ODNR did have a custom built application. It was called Detour. It still exists. How many of you even heard of Detour? How many think of good things when you hear the word detour? Right, it's hard to mark.
Thank you for not all raising your hand.
Yeah, so it's hard to market an app that
has that kind of name associated with it. It's also really hard to have accurate data. It always needs editing. Even internally, with our ODNR parks, we realized that our internal data was inaccurate. And you also struggle with, there's a lot of other apps that are competing for folks' attention. So you have All Trails, you have Trailforce, you have MTB Project, Hiking Project. So those all open source data applications are out there for public consumption. So it's really difficult to have to compete with some of those applications because they are collecting your metadata and selling it. So that's how they're getting income, where like a state run app is basically it's managed by the state. We're not collecting your data. That would be not good. So what we're working with, because it's really expensive to build, if anyone's attempted to build a custom application, it's super expensive. Things break, you need to fix them all the time. Every time Apple or Android does an update, you have to update your platform as well. So we are utilizing another system. I don't think it's like public yet, but there's a lot of it's an app called Outer Spatial, and their whole system is that they provide a platform for land managers to provide authoritative trail data to the public. So I don't even know where we're going with this, but we're trying to create, so Five Rivers Metro Parks and some of the other land managers in this region do use that application platform already. There's some other state agencies that are on that. So within that, we're going to try to create like curated routes and stuff. It's really hard for state agencies to promote individual businesses because then there's just that conflict of interest. So
the way we worked around it, kind of with the challenge concise, that we took the lazy way out on our website and put the Google map of the town there, because Google does the work to update whether your business is closed or not for that issue. But our challenge in the towns here, we have just on the Buckeye Trail, but Manaway, Chansey, and Loveland, and Dayton, they all want their own different thing. I think some of those are all connected by one unified experience, the Buckeye Trail, but half of them don't necessarily know that the Buckeye Trail is a thing. So that's the challenge, is every town is independent in its county, in its region, in its state, and I'm going to leave it on the question for us to discuss in the future is, are there ways that we can, or at least us and our trail, try to tackle that going forward? I think it's going to be a challenge.
Well, but also I think if we're talking about statewide, what resources from statewide, right, can be brought. And Melinda talked about it with the app. There are platforms out there that are available to do just this, like place-based marketing. It's not going to necessarily give you all the down and dirty on the trails, but remember, the thru hikers don't necessarily need all that, right? Like it's gonna be more of where to eat, right? And you're working, and I'm sure Experience Columbus is using one of those Bandwango, right? There's lots of them out there. So there are these apps that are available. Do they cost money? Yes. Are they as expensive as setting up something on your own? Probably not. And they probably are easier to activate in a much quicker time frame. But they are those apps that are available to promote a place and that are triggered by, GIS. So that exists. And that's why when you bring the tourism community to the conversations, like that's what they can bring to this conversation as well, and some of the resources they could bring.
Yeah, I was just gonna touch on two things. So we are finalizing this wayfinding strategy, and we were exploring the idea of creating an app for our trails, or the pros and cons of that. And what our consultants that were working with us recognized is that all of the wayfinding apps, those place-based apps that you're talking about, Google, any app, Strava, anything that people are using already to navigate their outdoor experience, they're using data that is pulled directly from Google or OpenStreetMap. So if we're able to improve the data at the source, so with Google and OpenStreetMap, the experience of using all of those other navigation apps is going to be much better. They tested their theory that that we could improve the data to improve the wayfinding experience. So they identified all of these little like trail access points that weren't in Google's data. And they like just went on Google, you can like right click and say like add data or like fix something. And they said, hey, there's actually a little connection here. And then they went back 2 weeks later and suddenly a trip that wasn't using that segment of trail was using it again. So it was like there was a park on one side of a trail and then a restaurant farther down the road. And it was telling you it would take like 20 minutes to get somewhere that actually only took you 2 minutes to get to. But just fixing that data at the source showed up, made that navigation experience in multiple different apps better. So that's something that like any of us can go do. Exactly. Go to Google, look at the trail data that's available there, make tweaks, go on Google and OpenStreetMap, and it will improve everything. And then the other thing to point out, that the app that you were talking about that we're working on with Experience Columbus, we're a government entity, so it is challenging for us to work with businesses and promote businesses, but we partnered with Experience Columbus with a tourism group who works with businesses and chambers of commerce all the time. And just this year, we asked the tourism groups, the like suburban tourism groups, to submit curated itineraries to Experience Columbus to share trips that people could take in their suburban communities by trail. So we're out of it. Like I'm not creating those curated trips anymore. The tourism groups are.
Just to,
Perfect sense.
yeah, right. You know, Google's trail layer, when that started, it was with Rails to Trails Conservancy's database. It was a cooperative agreement between Google and RTC. That was the first time they ever published trail data, was them publishing our database on Google Maps. We still have a cooperative agreement where at that point, it was 21,000 miles of just multi-use. That's, again, all we do, not sidewalks, not on street. It was 21,000 miles. We're up to 42,000 miles of map trails. We run TrailLink, which is our multi-use trail app. We have 6 full-time staffers. When I say it takes staff, 6 full-time staff that only run TrailLink. We have no business. We don't do the business thing. You can't possibly on a nationwide level try to keep track of what business is open or closed on a trail. And the worst thing in the world would be someone expecting a hotel or a restaurant in a small town that has one of each show up and our app says it's open and it's not. But that's the scale of this stuff. And that's the best advice ever. When people call us, we say, just get in touch, do it through Google Maps. If Google Maps is good, then the amount of other apps that run off of that is unbelievable. I mean, it's the best advice out there.
And you could just do Google. Eventually OpenStreetMap will grab Google's data.
Yeah.
It might not happen instantaneously, but eventually it will.
So which I think is put in your list of other resources, you know, education, right? So a statewide program could provide education on things just like this to help those in communities as well as those who are trail managers keep up to date with opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I had an analogy. You had a question about finding your way in your experience, amenities near the trail. I did international sign for on your phone. But it's an analog as well for the physical reality of walking down the trail and there was no sign. So we have lots of those examples and some really funny stories about, you know, people hiking into a town and a mayor is out having like some sort of planning commission meeting and 6 Buckeye Trail hikers show up and they say, what town is this? It's like they walked for hundreds of miles and they met the mayor and there was no sign that said what town they were in. And so signage for the town, coffee shops this way, parking that way, urbanized stays this way, really lets the trail user know that you are welcome to come, use these, businesses, please do. Makes it feel comfortable and safe, right? There's lots of examples of towns like Shawnee, Ohio, a little village. You walk through the Wayne National Forest, back up, you are about 500 yards from the village of Shawnee. You wouldn't know that. It's on the other side of the hill, without a sign. So we're working on changing those things, vice versa. The town of Shawnee didn't know there was a trailer in the back of the lake. Only been that way for 60 years or so. We're working on it. Anyway.
You know, Andrew, when you talk about that, it reminded me, I want to make sure we get on here that if we're not providing signage and printed materials, then we're not being accessible and inclusive. We are seeing that very prominently in some of the travel information. 35% of people do not want to access information digitally, or they can't. And I think we talk a lot about accessibility, inclusivity, but we don't think about those that really need that piece in front of them. And tend to think that, we have to move everything to a digital forefront. I would not do that. There's still going to be the need for quite some time. People who just don't know how, or prefer not to, or are unable to access.
Good news is the work is infinite.
Therefore, that grant should be.
What Melinda said in talking about maps. Really does work. It really does. And reconfiguration of the electronic mapping, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about.
It's great.
You can get some metadata back into post a photo of a location.
Yeah.
You get some news on that location. It's helpful to see where people are looking when they're at home. You post a photo and you say that to help. Oh, a little bit of metadata. Google doesn't deal at all. Providing them some information.
To dwell on the Google thing a while longer, I think it would be really cool to have Google do Street View on our waterways, so we could see what all of our waterways look like. So maybe like put in a little request in Google that you want Street
So
View.
there was an effort in the Dayton area.
They sure would.
Yeah, so.
Where's Brett?
Yeah, where's
How did
Brett?
that happen?
Well, they had Google Tracker.
Yeah,
It
they
was a
had-
backpack. It had the cameras like you see on the car, and they did all of the trails at Five Rivers, all of the.
So a Parks District person did it?
Yeah, so it's, the 350 miles of paved trail network. They got a golf cart and drove all the trails. And then Brent,
The Yellow Spring section.
yeah, Brent took the trekker down the rivers in a kayak. So if you look, you could drop your little guy on all the rivers in the Dayton area. It's kind of neat.
Oh,
That's cool.
It hasn't been updated in 10 years.
That was 10 years ago, probably, yeah.
But so you had to have Metro Parks staff do that.
It was all volunteers. Well, I
Interesting.
think that it was.
I wonder if we could make the case that Google should do that for us.
Let me know how that goes.
I found it, Google has the abandoned rail line. Probably already know this. I didn't know.
Google will show you abandoned rail lines?
Like Wikipedia, done, but it's around the world. So.
We won't show you that. Yeah, I've been accosted by too many landowners. I will not show you where abandoned rail lines are.
All these, doing the research to do the Homestead Trail. Again, you've got a website. And the nice thing about the website is that it covers, hello, where do you want to go, Westerville, whatever, and they'll show, the restaurants, places to stay. But it's the responsibility of those restaurant or hotel owners to go and update that information, or the people that are looking at that are like, oh, I live in Westville, that place closed, let them know. So it's just kind of updated by the people that use it and businesses. Maybe that's something you can think about for the Buckeye Trail, if they've got a website, or that you don't have to have an app necessarily. And then the OTED, they'll sell you the trail maps, and each year is updated with trail map information that each town has. All turn trail. not an app, it's just a web.
Wanna, lift up a concern I know we can't solve here, but I think you mentioned it, Melinda, in your presentation. So as a section supervisor who's connected to kind of long-standing trail towns, one of the requirements is that a trail town for the Buckeye Trail has to allow camping. And this has started to become a sore spot for a couple of these kind of suburban area trails where one of them actually said to me, oh, we've stopped doing that in the winter because of our unhoused population and we don't want people there. And I know we don't have quick solutions, but I would love to see us find a way to lift up strategies that trail towns successfully use so that they address the fears connected to that, or address the challenges that have come up around that, so that we could have, you know, here are our suggestions for how to make this work without it becoming, you know, more of a NIMBY issue. It took me by surprise that that was the first thing they said was no.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated issue that obviously we aren't gonna solve here, or trails aren't gonna solve it. But one of the things that we thought about when we were talking about our Trail Town program is we do have fairly substantial homeless camps along our trails. And, you know, I don't think anyone would suggest that the solution is to go out and move them or get rid of them. So maybe one of the short-term strategies could be to make sure that our local governments are providing the resources to make the trail feel comfortable for people that are passing by and offer a little bit of dignity to the people that are finding themselves living there. Simple things like offering more trash removal. Like, let's pick up the trash, and like we can allocate more funding for trash removal. That's like a small thing that we can do immediately to provide more dignity and beauty to the trail there.
Many times those are close to, within a somewhat simple walking distance or travel distance to a trailhead or a place that has portalettes, or how about we triple the amount of portalettes in those places. Like, there's things we can do to make the situation more comfortable for both the unhoused and the trail users, but there has to be a recognition by the manager and the jurisdiction that it's
And our trails are a public good. They're for everyone.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Maybe about 20 years ago, they figured out how to get a police officer to ride a bike. But they should consider a similar scenario for like social services folks.
Yeah.
If the population is on the trail, you have the right kind of equipment to go serve the population.
Well, Andrew, I'm going to take 1 minute for a soapbox that all of you have heard, all of you guys have heard before, but because it's both about Trail Town, but really it's about the initial development of trails in the first place and the perspective that communities and trail advocates like my organization and others have traditionally taken. And when we talk about the benefits of trail, whether you're going into a community and trying to help them build their first mile of trail, or you're going into a community and trying to help develop a program like a Trail Town program, I think frankly, for 50 years, people have been going into communities and selling them on the benefits of trails. And one of those benefits has been, and it's usually at the top of towards the top of the list, do this and you're going to attract visitors, which will spend outside money in your businesses. It will be an economic driver. It'll rarely at the top of that list is what you're developing it for the people that live there. And you're developing it for the community and the people that live in that community today, so that it's theirs, it's for them, it's about them. Ultimately, if other people come visit and spend money, that's great. But if you start the conversation with that, why in the hell are people in that community that don't already like trails going to care? And frankly, they don't. And that's where you get trails in communities that don't have any stewardship, don't really have a lot of care. And quickly leadership goes, well, if the people living here don't care, why would I? We have got to start centering the discussion about trail development, trail programming, and trails in general around the people that live in those communities, and not about people that might come in from outside. The people who come from outside, if the people that live there love it, they may come the first time, but if the people that live there don't use it and love it, your community is not going to be the kind of place I want to visit or you want to visit. We have to start with the community first, and not so much. We don't start with tourism. I'm sorry, Melinda, but we can't start with tourism.
Agree to a point, but I also think you're getting back into that either or, and let's prioritize conversations. And we're talking about trail towns, not trail development. You missed my presentation. And I was like,
Agreed.
smack back.
Agreed.
That it is about, like, we're here to talk about Trail Town, not program, Trail Town. What is it?
Efforts.
Trail Town efforts, which is distinctly different from trail development, right? I agree with you 100%, the trail development. We're talking about trail towns as connecting users. A resident doesn't walk out of their, you know, across the street, go on the trail, and then come back and go to a restaurant. I mean, so the tourism argument does become more important when it's not tourism. It is 50 miles or more, right? So it is not, it's travel. It is introducing people to your community. Don't use the word tourism. It is about welcoming people to your community. And that's it. And so the trail town, I think that conversation has to be a bigger part of it. But I agree with you on trail development that it starts with the community.
I think there's a place for my soapbox even in the Trail Town discussion. The Trail Town discussion, and it's really about, and a term that economic developers and others have been using the last few years that I hadn't heard 5, 10 years ago. And it's about developing community wealth. And yes, it's about economic development. It's about business development. It's about community wealth building, though. If that economic development is being done by people from, if an investor from Columbus is building the new restaurant in Centerburg, okay, cool for trail users, not from Centerburg. There's a place to eat, but all that money is going to the investor in Columbus. It's about community. That it should be centered on local. The people in that community should be the ones benefiting from the developments coming around the trail. So when we think about trail town development, how do we make sure that the people that live there are the ones that will have first crack at the benefits and the opportunities that a trail town program brings, and not just the people with the access to the quick capital?
First word is trail. Trail is what matters. The community that you have to, the engagement in that local community is where it starts. Because you're not gonna get tourism to come there if you got the trail. That's right. Not happening.
Right.
I think like the phrase trail town is just so powerful because it can mean so many different things. And we can use it to describe complex issues and efforts that we're trying to do in tourism and local quality of life. And everyone kind of likes that term, and then they can like picture it being whatever they want it to be.
I would like, because we have limited time, to address the initial question in, so the plan says statewide trail program, right? We have a Central Ohio framework being done. We have Buckeye Trail done. We have North Country. What are the others? Are there any other trail town efforts?
I consider Great Miami Riverway like another angle on a trail town program.
Okay.
Ohio Riverway, similar.
Right.
Our 2 Erie Trail that's with Melinda.
Right.
Marcy. I think that's all the programs.
Yeah, I don't know of any others.
Which I think is fabulous, right? But they each have their own brand, they have their own identity, and I'd like to hear ideas on, how does a state program either complicate or
Because if I'm doing the Ohio Erie Trail, I don't care about a town that's not on it. Right? So it's like, and I think there are people that, we don't want another Tree City USA. Right? Like, I don't want a sign that just at the entrance of the city that's like, oh, it's a trail town. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, sorry if your town is Tree City USA.
Whoever you alienated, but I'm with you.
I don't have any like ODNR
He said it, not me.
insignia on it.
But you're a hologram. This isn't really Mark. It's AI.
But like, I think each trail user has a distinct need as well. So like my primary form of recreation is mountain biking, and I'm gonna probably access the trail by a vehicle. I'm not gonna walk through the town, but it's someone that's walking through the town, like all of the things that we're talking about, like, I don't know, there's different needs for different groups, and I don't wanna like. The efforts that we're doing on, our fancy titles and positions is one thing, but like, I think it was said already, like when you're in a community and you see someone on a backpack, like I was on my bike the other day and I saw someone with a backpack. I was like, "Are you through hiking the Buckeye Trail?" And a smile on his face was like, one, like you've heard of it, right? But then he's like, "I'm actually just section hiking." Like that's still really cool. And like I don't know, he was just walking on a road, so it's a boring section of the Buckeye Trail, but and he could have got there faster by bike.
That's alienating everybody in this room, man.
Oh, man.
No, but like,
You just scoot over. There's arrows coming soon. I don't want to be anywhere near Mike.
I don't want to like discredit the work that's being done at the
Yeah.
local level. Because like I went to CD's and I was so excited when I saw a 6-pack of Mystic Mama and Who Cooks for You. And if you don't know, you don't know. But like that's amazing because it wasn't like that the first year. Like the first 8 miles went into the Chansey Trail system or the Bailey's Trail system in Chansey. Like, but then you see some of the other communities, and I feel like they don't feel connected to the trail. So it's like you gotta start at the local level. There's a lot of avenues to really develop that sense of community.
But I think you also have to acknowledge that capacity, for towns like Chansey are so low.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we're doing this, because I love Chansey, but we're volunteers too, and we have no experience with trail, even none. Yeah, but capacity is a problem if you're gonna have a trail town plan. You have to recognize that there's just rural communities that need this too, and they're not being represented in ways that the more urban and suburban areas are.
Well, and I think that one thing that a state entity, or if we can't get that at a state level, maybe at a regional level, that we can provide is a framework for communities to, work within. So you are working off volunteer support. It would be wonderful if you could plug into a state system where there's already a format for an app that you can plug your destinations into, and it's shared marketing. And it's not just about one trail. It's about adventure. It's about the outdoors and all types of trails. And in Central Ohio, we did use the Ohio to Erie Trail as a starting point to think about the types of communities that would participate in a Trail Town program. But really the framework looks at including communities all across Central Ohio. So that big map of 500 miles of trails, it's communities that are on all of those 500 miles of trails, not just the Ohio to Erie Trail. So we're thinking about a program where we're not just imagining people riding the Ohio to Erie Trail, but maybe going from the Ohio to Erie Trail into Dublin and using different trails, but to have that experience of the trail being central to an adventure that's met with resources and communities.
I don't like in the interest of time, I want to honor your guys' time, but before I say my last thing, you can hang out here and chat with each other for as long as you want after our designated time of 4:20 or 4:30, whatever. But to your point or question here of should we do something big, statewide, regional, here or there, I'm gonna pick on rooms here who county. I don't think you have a designated trail town in your county. So who does Chandler call? So that technical assistance of a statewide entity like, well, it does have a Buckeye Trail going through, but maybe not for the town they're thinking. So who helps Chandler? Nobody's job. Yeah, it's not Department of Tourism or ODNR or the Buckeye Trail Association, any nonprofit, not Morpsey's job. Who does Chandler go to? Thank you.
And I have the same question, who do we go to?
Yeah, when you're from.
Jackson, neighboring county.
Yeah, you have my other example, Wellston, right now as well.
Yeah.
And so these are the underserved communities. Underserved rural Appalachian communities are very similar to underserved urban neighborhoods as well, where they don't have the staff that a suburban or county level place has. So that's where some of the money and the human resources comes in, or could come in. So that's why we're having a meeting on March 26th to carry on this conversation. Any one of anything that we can do, just for all transparency, would benefit the Buckeye Trail Association because there'd be a resource for our Trail Town program to plug into. But it would also be a resource to the Great Miami River. It'd also be a resource to the Ohio to Erie Trail. So we're searching for something that we don't have our mind made up, you know, what it should be. So that's
One of the
up
things,
to us.
one of the things the Federal Highway Administration did, it just kind of dawned on me with your question and hearing Andrew talk. For the National Scenic Byway Program, same problem was happening, right? And so they created an America's Byways Resource Center. And it wasn't the place where you got designated, right? But it was the place that you went to for education, for resources, to find out who's what, you know. So it wasn't necessarily a designation program. That was done elsewhere, but it was a support system. It was funded by Federal Highway Administration. But it didn't do the actual designation, but it served an important function for those nonprofits that were out there trying to, and byways are similar to trails in that they cross multiple communities and have to get buy-in. So we may be able to learn something, I think, from looking maybe at byway system, what worked and what didn't. And I never really thought about this until it came out of my mouth. So
I think we need a few hours to just discuss what does it mean? What does a statewide program mean? It very well may not mean anything about designating trail towns, or it may be something like a resource center for those programs that exist or want to exist, right? Like the Buckeye Trail Town can plug in and get marketing assistance and funding, can get the Ohio to Erie Trail can plug in and get and then this resource center has access to Ohio, to the Department of Tourism for marketing, and there's how do we have kind of a place, whether it's in DNR or elsewhere, that has access to other state agencies that becomes the go-to place for existing and emerging trail town programs to plug in for resources. Maybe that's what it is. It's not its own trail town program. It's just a hub for trail town programs around the state to plug into for resources.
You're right, a question just for you or maybe for Mark or anybody. Has there been any traction on the recommendation in the report about it? There ever been a legislator who's kind of crafted legislation and advocated for?
This is our first step. We got the inaugural.
Okay.
Besides what individual entities are doing on their own. So Buckeye Trail made those steps. I have a guess on who wrote those particular words. They got put into the trail vision. And so, but no, there hasn't been anything yet. That's what we're gonna.
There's like a Trails Caucus in the legislature, right? There are people who care about it, right?
Not necessarily about Trail Town specifically, but saying Trail Caucus and being a member of it is generally good bipartisan politics. The level of activity of any one of those legislatures to be champions of that remains to be seen.
Is anybody from the greater Solon, Ohio area here, though? Say thank you to Representative Phil Robinson for being the most outspoken supporter of trails at the State House. He's amazing.
I hate to have to bring this to an end, but we're at the, we're heading like the limits of our 4 hours. I want to say thank you all for sticking this out. There's a survey in your blue folder. If you want to fill it out now, that'd be great. If you want to take it with you, and I've got business cards at the back. My email is trailtown@buckeyetrail.org. So, I mean, you can look that up, or, if you just want to email me your thoughts and concerns or anything, that, the survey is just kind of like a prompter to, we'd like to know how we did. If you have more questions, we're probably, the Melinda slides, they said they are fine to share those. Amy, would you be okay if I shared your slides? Okay, and we'll have those somewhere, I might just send them to you. I don't see it. What am I missing? Just thank you to everyone for like sharing your day with us. I mean, and for the people who are like our government people who are 9 to 5 people that, you know, they're doing this on their day off. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for the people who this came out and, you know, probably missed a wonderful midwinter day out there. We are having a virtual meeting. That's a Tuesday, 11 a.m. So we're trying to capture, and it'll be virtual. So, you know, we have 500 people or whatever the cost will take.
That'd be awesome.
So we're gonna like continue the conversation in about a month. So thank you all for attending. Yeah.
Students start. Yeah.